What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday. It is officially free agent week. We will have a free agency live stream on Thursday and maybe one on Friday too, just like a little update stream as well. So it's peak off season. The draft just happened. I dropped a draft video. Gonna drop the Jabari Walker video later tonight. The coffee shop I go to, their Wi-Fi's been down, so I couldn't edit it and drop it earlier. So that'll drop tonight, and then a couple free agency preview videos between now and free agency. Eric, what's going on, man? It's hot where you're at. It's hot where I'm at. It's hot everywhere. How are you holding up?
Oh, not too bad, other than the room I had to do this in is not very cool, but yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, it's the same for me. So a little toasty. I'm glad it waited until June 27th to finally get some summer heat, but yeah, I'm not really enjoying it right now. Hopefully everybody else in the Portland area is staying cool. I'm talking people that live elsewhere are probably like, you're talking about 93-degree heats. That's nothing, but I like the cold. I'm used to the cold, man. 93-degree heat is no bueno for me. So yeah, we're finally going to get some cool weather, finally. Anyway, I'm going to want to talk about the draft a little bit. I'm going to want to talk about free agency a little bit. We'll talk about KD and Kyrie and all that good stuff. We'll talk about Kenyon Martin Jr. and maybe some other things that Eric tosses our way. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. Eric, let's just jump in. What do you want to get started with for this show?
We have to mention this, even though it ties in with the KD stuff. Just got to do it right off the bat. Krish, you're amazing, man. Shout out to Krish.
Yeah, round of applause for Krish. Everybody give Krish some applause in the chat. Krish is SportsCenter famous. Krish is Damian Lillard famous. Krish is everywhere. At least as it is. But it's cool to see SportsCenter with the Krish logo up on the jersey in the edit. So shout out to Krish. I don't even know if Krish is watching. This is the wrong time to not watch Krish. But yeah, shout out to Krish. Go follow him on Twitter. I'll post his Twitter handle in the chat.
For those that don't know, so Krish made an edit. This is actually a while ago, right?
Yeah.
With Dame and KD. It was one of the Team USA pictures, only it was with the Blazers. And you can tell it's his because where the StormX logo is on the Blazers jersey, he puts KC logo for Krish. Yeah,
I don't know what the C stands for.
What's his last name?
Oh yeah, I remember his last name.
So
I'm not going to dox him.
That's his little logo for Twitter, or for his graphics. That's how he watermarks stuff. Yeah. And then Dame somehow got a hold of that picture a few days ago, tweets it or puts it on Instagram, and then it just blows up. Nurk retweets it on Twitter. And now, like you said, it's been on SportsCenter today and all that kind of stuff. So, unfortunately, he didn't get credit for the picture anywhere, but we all know it was Krish due to his little logo he puts on the jerseys. And well done, Krish. He has fire edits all the time, so check him out if you like that kind of stuff.
Yep, helps us with graphics on post-game shows and the big live streams. He helped with the draft graphics and has helped me with some thumbnails too. So big shout out to Krish. Definitely go follow him. One of our mods too, so pretty big in the Blazer community and now pretty big in the NBA community, at least as that it is. So shout out to him. The Kevin Durant stuff's been fun. Because I dropped that video on it. It was my first video to get at least 10,000 views since the Pau Gasol one. The Pau Gasol one, for whatever reason, got 15,000 views in like late July. So the algorithm liked me better back then than they do now. So the Kevin Durant stuff has been fun, but we got an update potentially as to that situation that we can talk about in a bit.
Yeah, let's just get to it now, I guess.
Yeah, let's do it now. All right.
So this morning, Windhorse comes out and says that basically the situation has deteriorated and the Brooklyn Nets are expecting to lose their 2 stars in the coming days. And it's hilarious because why would the Nets leak that information? That's so dumb. They wouldn't call Windhorse and be like, oh, we're so desperate right now. We're gonna lose everyone. It sucks. Things are on fire. The sky is falling. No one's gonna do that. So this either was just Windhorse speculating, or it was coming from Kyrie's camp to put pressure on the Nets to kind of do something or risk losing both him and KD. And apparently it worked because Kyrie, said he's opting back in, and he's going to play this year under his contract and then become an unrestricted free agent next summer. But he doesn't have a no-trade clause, so him opting in doesn't mean the Nets can't just trade him anyway. So I don't think it's over quite yet, but definitely was some leverage play here. And
here's the thing, like, a team's probably not going to give up a ton for Kyrie, A, with his, problems, and then B, with the fact that he's going to be a free agent next year, so if it's not somewhere Kyrie wants to go, why would you give up a ton for him? So I think for Kyrie, it's a situation where he's probably okay going back to Brooklyn and playing with Kevin Durant, or he knows that if he gets traded, it's probably not going to be somewhere he doesn't want to go, and if that's the case, then he's a free agent next summer anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess he explored the sign and trade market to basically opt in and sign an extension. But I guess the Lakers were the only team even interested in that. And the Nets absolutely don't want Westbrook, and they don't want, we know the Lakers don't really have many assets to give back in terms of matching salaries. So it almost had to have been Westbrook. And so how are they going to make a trade work between those two teams when the Nets don't want anything from them? And so, I think he realized that this is not the summer to be a free agent, because even teams like the Knicks, Pistons, Magic, even if they created cap space, I don't think any of those teams are going to be able to offer a full max for more than what he's going to be making. Now, there was talk he'd be willing to leave $30 million on the table to sign with the Lakers, but that was obviously false too. I think that was just a bluff that got called, and so he had to sign that deal, because I think if he opts out, there was a chance that Brooklyn doesn't offer him a contract, and he's stuck having to accept like the mid-level exception somewhere.
Yeah, this is just an intriguing situation because Kevin Durant is kind of tied to what happens with Kyrie, and it's like if you're Brooklyn, you don't even have future assets. I was getting to the point where I thought that they would have to just bite the bullet and pay Kyrie and keep KD. Because, Kyrie is a bit unreliable. So a 4-year max contract isn't the best at all. But if it comes at keeping KD or KD wanting out, then, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And it was like, I just didn't see the upside in letting Kyrie walk and then KD wanting out. And you could probably get back a solid package, but Brooklyn owes future first to Houston that are either, lightly protected or unprotected. I forget the protections.
They're all unprotected.
Are they really? Yeah. So that was in the James Harden trade. So, it's not like
Houston was praying for their downfall.
Yeah, it's not like they would trade Kevin Durant for, an Anthony Simons type guy would intrigue him. A young guy that is good, that has a lot of upside, that could still keep him competitive now. Because that's the thing. And when you trade unprotected first-round picks, the tank route, the rebuild route, isn't viable because you don't get your picks no matter what. So it was going to be something where they would have had to find the right package, and it would have been hard to do for KD. So that's why, even if Kyrie didn't opt in, I thought it was a situation where they were going to have to just bite the bullet and pay Kyrie and keep him there and roll with Kevin Durant. So I did not expect it to go this way where Kyrie opts in, but I think at this point, Kyrie just plays out next year, tries to get an extension. Maybe he tries to prove this year that he's worthy of a 4-year max contract extension, and maybe he, is reliable and consistently productive and that sort of thing, playing next to Kevin Durant.
The one thing is, Westbrook is on an expiring deal, so if he really did want to go to the Lakers, I think the Lakers could maybe set up their free agency to make room for him next summer. And I think a lot of teams could do it if they knew for sure he was coming. Whereas this was kind of after it was too late for any team to really do something. Now, New York tried to create as much room as possible, but I don't think they're going to get close to, I think they can only get about half of what they can offer Kyrie. So I just don't think any team really had a clue that this was going to happen this summer and that they would legitimately have a shot to land him. Nor do I know if there are many teams out there that would be willing to give him a 4-year max at this point.
Yep. So I think KD's staying put. And this is, I talked to Gabe last night, and Gabe's a Suns fan, runs Suns Valley Pod, a Suns channel, and we've collaborated a bit. A good friend of mine. So I was talking to Gabe last night, man, and this is what I've been trying to tell him since day one, because Phoenix fans were under the impression that they had a really solid chance at KD, and that's where KD wanted to go, and like a lot of Suns fans thought that they were going to get Kevin Durant, or at least be like one of the favorites to get Kevin Durant. And I tried to explain to Gabe that when it's a situation where you have to have like multiple things go right in order to get a guy, it's just very unlikely, because all this hinged upon Kyrie, right? All this hinged upon Kyrie not being able to get the contract he wants, so he wants out. Therefore, Kevin Durant might have wanted out. The thing is, Kevin Durant wouldn't have even necessarily demanded a trade even if they got rid of Kyrie. We don't know that for sure. And we didn't know if Kyrie was going to opt in, or if Kyrie... we didn't know what was going to happen with Kyrie. Now we have some closure on it, but it was like Kyrie was a question mark. And then based on that, KD might leave if Kyrie's not there. And then if KD wants to leave, he's under a 4-year contract, so you're going to have a bunch of teams bidding for him. And it's like, sure, even if he says Phoenix is where he wants to go, do they have a package that could hold up? It would probably require Brooklyn really wanting DeAndre Ayton on a max contract, and that's a big if. So it's just like, and that applies to every team. That applies to the Blazers too. It's just like when you have to have so many things occur a certain way for a player to become available and then get traded to your team, it's just not something that you should expect, because you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. And the first domino in this situation doesn't even seem like it fell.
Yeah.
Let alone the follow-up ones. So,
and on top of that, I mean, these guys can't just choose where they're playing. Because Kyrie would have had to do a sign-and trade, but Brooklyn could have just said, tough luck, I'm not trading you to Phoenix if their offer was much worse than another offer. I mean, why would they, if they have a falling out and Kyrie wants to leave, why would they do what's best for him? Wouldn't they do what's best for their organization?
Yeah, yeah. And that was a big conversation. And Gabe made a video basically talking about that, because we talked about just kind of the intricacies of that situation last night. But I want to know this, I want to know if you think this package is good enough, because this is the package we started arguing about from Phoenix. He was saying 3 future firsts, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and Jay Crowder for Kevin Durant. And I thought that wasn't close to good enough.
I mean, if you're Brooklyn and I think it would have to be at least 4 unprotected firsts and pick swaps in the opposite years.
Yeah.
So, but I think if you're Brooklyn, you might be able to look at that and say KD's 34, Chris Paul's 36, almost 37, I think. Like those 2027, 2029 picks might look pretty good unprotected if the Suns go all in for the next couple of years. So I think maybe that would be intriguing to them. I don't think it compares to a lot of other teams that could offer a lot more, though. That
was my point. Like Portland jumping in with 3 future firsts, 3 swaps, potentially an Anthony Simons sign and trade with Sharp, with Nasir Little, with Keon Johnson beats that pretty handily, I think. Because then Brooklyn could kind of go the rebuild route, but they'd already have a lot of good young players that could help them be competitive, considering their pick situation is very messed up. And then you got Portland's picks, and Dame's 31, KD's 34, so and Portland would be trading all their future for that, so down the line could have been good picks in that regard too. So that was the thought, is that that's the thing, you're gonna have, if KD was on a 1-year contract and was like, okay, if I go to this set of teams, I'm not resigning next year, then he'd have leverage, and those teams probably wouldn't give up much for him because he'd just leave. Exactly, like Jeremy Grant. But with him being on a 4-year contract, I just think it didn't matter a whole lot where he said he wanted to go.
Yeah, well, so I was thinking about this. So when the news broke this morning that potentially it was going to fall apart, I started writing an article, and I was going through every team, what like the Godfather offer could be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get very far because then Kyrie resigns and stuff. So
it always sucks when you start to do a video or an article or whatever, and then
it was good for me to like look at how many assets a lot of teams have. So like for future reference, I don't have to do as much research then. So it was fine. But like first team I go to, I was just doing alphabetical order is Atlanta Hawks, and they have Charlotte's 2023 first. That's like top 16 protected, and then it goes down to lottery protected the next 2 years. And they have all their own future first. So they could have offered potentially 5 firsts, 3 pick swaps, and like young players like Herder and a Kongwu and
DeAndre Hunter,
John Collins, and stuff like that. Yeah. So like, how is any team beating that offer if the Hawks wanted him, right? Now, the only problem with the Hawks is it looks like they're trying to give up like 3 of those first for DeJounte Murray. And if they accomplish that, then their asset pool might not be enough to go after a Durant. And then a team like Portland or Phoenix might have a better offer than in that case. But just looking at it pre DeJounte trade, there's no way many teams can compete with an offer with several young players and those kind of picks. Plus, if Brooklyn wanted to, they could just swing Collins to one of the numerous teams that are apparently interested in him, and they could get more picks in that deal instead of Collins. And that's the only thing I'll say about the Phoenix offer is someone like Mikal Bridges could obviously get a couple firsts. I think we'd be willing to give up a couple future firsts and unprotect that Chicago pick if we had a guy like that apparently
available. And Dame would be down for that too because they're friends.
Dame would love it. I mean, that's like the ideal target, even more so than OG. I think if we had a chance to get Mikal Bridges. So if that would be one fallout from that. The bad part is how do we beat Chris Paul, Booker, and KD and Ayton re-signing, you would think, in that situation. That's a tough team, man.
Yeah, I mean, still, though, like, you're talking about 6 firsts and no good young prospects, like, I feel like that would be beaten. And that was basically the conversation me and Gabe and Romp was a part of. That's the conversation we had, man, is you have so many teams that be willing to give up, like, 4 future firsts and then good young talent on top of that, because it's Kevin Durant. I mean, I feel like some people don't realize how good KD was last year. He averaged 29.9 points per game. I think it was 7.4 rebounds per game and 6.4 assists per game. Mm-hmm. That's crazy numbers. He did it efficiently. His true shooting percentage is like 63%. Has turned himself into a pretty dang good defensive player. I mean, he's a top 5 player in the league still, in my opinion. Yeah. You don't get those guys easily. And that's the thing. It's like, if Dame wanted out, and that's what I put in that video, if Dame wanted out, would you take this package for him if he had 4 years left on his contract and you could potentially leverage him into staying?
Yeah, I mean, if he wanted out, I think you got to take whatever the best package is. But but like, that's the thing. Do you think that would be the best package? I don't know.
My question. So,
like I said, you could flip some of those assets you could probably get a late first, early second for Crowder to like a contender. I don't know. You could make it work, I think. It's just
I mean, I just think when teams trade stars, they want like a blue chip prospect that's already showed some of his promise in the league.
Yeah.
So like an Anthony Simons, like a Tyrese Maxey type of guy, maybe. Just a guy that's already like that still has a really high upside, but has already proven that he can at least like play at a high level in the NBA.
Before I get to this, I just want to say one other thing. So why did Kevin Durant sign a 4-year deal if he was tied to Kyrie and he knew Kyrie wasn't signing that same extension, you know? Like, I don't understand why he did that if he was then going to leave if Kyrie left. Because last summer he should have known that situation was tenuous with Kyrie's, vaccination status and all that.
Taylor, I appreciate you, Taylor. So KD, it looks like he's going back, which I'm fine with. I didn't want KD in Phoenix. Like, I didn't want... I think the competitive balance of the league right now is in a really good spot, and it's wide open, and I enjoy it. And I don't want Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving going to places to form, like, super teams or big threes. Like, I love the league where it's at right now. And that's the thing, is everybody said, oh, super teams are good for ratings, but ratings aren't down right now, are they?
No, I think they were up in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And I watched a lot more playoffs this year than I did back when we knew that the playoffs were just some cardio because it was going to be Cleveland versus Golden State.
So I have an interesting, this is what I wanted to get to a minute ago. So going through some of these teams, there was one team that I came up with a scenario that if Kyrie and KD still wanted to play together, they could. And Brooklyn could maybe stay, if they made some smart moves other than this, in contention mode. Do you know who that would be?
New York?
No. So almost every other trade was, young players and picks or just salary filler and picks and stuff like that, right? What would you think of this? And now Kyrie and KD would never agree to play here, so it wouldn't matter. Yeah. But to Utah for Gobert and Donovan Mitchell.
If Utah was willing to give Kyrie that extension,
right? Because that's the only way they could get two stars like that to come.
That would be hilarious, honestly.
And then be hilarious. Donovan Mitchell and Gobert actually have to stay together because they. but Utah could easily match salary with how many contracts they have, and Gobert makes, I think, roughly about what KD makes.
Ben Simmons with Gobert defensively would be.
I know, yeah. So they'd have Mitchell, Simmons, and Gobert. Yeah, it'd be.
Chat's cracking me up. That would have been interesting. I wouldn't know how to feel about that. We still have. Okay, so what's up with Utah? You brought up Utah, and now I'm thinking about Utah. I didn't plan on talking about Utah, but are they gonna do what's their plan? Are they gonna do anything?
Apparently, so the latest on the DeJounte Murray thing is that Collins isn't involved in that trade. And the rumor is because Atlanta's trying to get both Murray and Gobert.
Wow.
Which would be a very, very interesting. Go from their defense last year to probably, even with Trae Young, probably one of the best defenses in the league. So that'd be crazy. Yeah. But I still hear Gobert trade rumors. I don't think they're going to trade Donovan Mitchell. Just because I think they have him locked up for so long. Well, they have Gobert locked up too, but I think it would be easier to retool around Mitchell than it would be to trade Mitchell. I mean, I guess there's still a scenario where they could trade both, but I think they might trade Gobert. I don't understand if they run it back though. It seems like, what the Blazers, people are complaining about the Blazers for years. It's like, try something new, just do it. Just make a change at some point,
Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's kind of what Indiana was doing. Now Indiana's supposedly going into rebuild mode, but they still have Malcolm Brogdon. So on draft night, we were supposed to see a bunch of chaos and a bunch of trades, and we didn't. And I guess it just makes free agency more intriguing because Woj was reporting, teams want to get better tonight or make things happen tonight, and teams didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a little bit anticlimactic, but it just makes it a possibility that free agency is more chaotic, which I'm down for then, I guess.
I mean, it's been pretty chaotic for several years now.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Brogdon's on, who knows what the deal is with Brogdon. You got Gobert, you got DeJounte Murray to Atlanta, potentially, John Collins. Am I missing any?
Well, I mean, there hasn't been any, firm rumors, but you would think New York would be trying to trade Randall.
New York wants Brunson is the obvious thing right now.
Obviously, the Lakers would love to do something with Westbrook. We got news today that Wall's getting bought out, and he's already agreed to sign with the Clippers.
Yeah, which I think he can negotiate with the Clippers because he was waived.
Yeah.
Which is it was just weird, though. Anyway, let me thank some dono. Shout out JM1231, $2 dono. He says, "What's up, fellas? So hyped for Summer League." I am too, man. I'll have a Summer League preview, a video where I go over what I'm looking for in Summer League. And that should be a fun video to put out. And then the first Summer League game is the 7th. And
we played Detroit. It's going to be awesome.
It's at 9 p.m. tip-off time Pacific, Eric.
Nice.
So let's do a watch party for that because that's on... Is the 7th on a Thursday. Yeah, the 7th's on a Thursday. So instead of Blazers Uprise live at 9:30 p.m., we'll just go live at 9 p.m. and do a watch party for the first Summer League game. I don't know if we'll do it here or over on the main channel, but we will have a watch party for that first Summer League game.
Sounds
is
good.
the plan. Perfect start time to do a watch party, 9 p.m. I like that. So Chris says I thought it was 7. That's the first game. That's Houston and Orlando. So that should be pretty good. And then I'll have to like run home from rec. I don't know if I'll be there till 9, but I'll like run home from rec, get you live at least, and then join a little bit after. So watch party on the 7th. Shout out to Caleb Pendergraph, $5 dono. He says early offseason spoiled me with constant news. Now waiting for more stuff is killing me. Also, Kai Soto Uprise when? Thank you, Caleb, for the $5 dono. Other people have unfortunately cornered the market on Kai Soto. I was late to the party, but when I put his name in the title of the draft stream, the viewership spiked.
That was funny.
He's a cheat code. A cheat code. Like, if I did a video on him right now, it'd probably be my most viewed video of the offseason. You know, it's just he's a cheat code because he has a huge Filipino fan base that, like, gobble up anything about him on YouTube, which respect to his fan base, you know.
But I mean, Caleb, I think you're selling the recent rumor mill short a little bit. I mean, is KD and Kyrie possibly being available and then not being available and all that stuff, that's not interesting to you at all? I mean, I thought that was kind of fun for a couple days to dream at least. It's like when you buy a lottery ticket, you know you're not going to win, but you always think about what you're going to do if you win all that money, you know?
Yeah.
All this stuff I'm going to buy and we're going to get KD. This is how we're going to do it.
I need a little bit of a break between the draft and free agency, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's chaotic. Durant trade, and then draft, and everything that goes into that, and all the videos going up to that, and then it's nice to have a little bit of a dip to just, like, relax, because honestly, in the days leading up to the draft, man, I don't think I relaxed for a second. Like, it's just chaotic, everything that goes into that I'm like thinking about 24/7, man, and all the video stuff and all of that. It gets a little bit exhausting, not even in a bad way. It's a lot. So I'm enjoying a little bit of a dip right now and being able to relax a little bit. And then of course free agency will happen, and that's like another peak. And
but then August is really
See, the thing is with free agency though, I enjoy the free agency streams a little bit more than the draft stream, because the draft is just like go. It's like pick. Gotta have the graphics constantly updating. Whereas free agency, you'll have like spikes, but a lot of it's just waiting for stuff to happen. So we're just relaxing and kind of kicking back. It's a lot more relaxed for me. I don't know if you feel that way.
Oh yeah, it's very chill. Remember, but there's been times where there hasn't been any signings for like an hour or something. We're like, come on, should we go off? And then all of a sudden, like you said, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, maybe we'll need to have some sort of game we can play with chat during the downtime. I don't know, but it's cool. We just get to hang out with chat for time. We don't get that with the draft stream. The draft stream is just go. So I'm looking forward to free agency, and then after that I could breathe like a sigh of relief, and we'll do summer league content, and then probably I'll take like a month off for making videos. I'll probably do like stream highlights and maybe try and get a couple pickup runs together, but we'll relax in August, and then September player previews, and then October season. Anyway, I like a few days off though, so I don't agree with you, Caleb. I'm not dying right now. I'm relaxing. And shout out to Caleb with another $5 dono. He says, I feel like we didn't see many trades because the Kyrie KD situation has been looming over everything, and that is definitely possible. So kind of touching upon what you touched on, Eric. Thank you, Caleb, for the donos.
Yeah, I think obviously the Blazers weren't going to make a trade if they had a chance to get KD. And then, I think a lot of teams that were interested in one or the other were holding off for a second. But now that appears to be settled, I'm still not 100% convinced of it. But I think the dust is starting to clear, and you'll hear a lot more rumors in the next couple days.
Yep, absolutely, and we'll have you covered. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Tori Jones YT. Eric's at Hoops Jock. I will put that in the chat because we'll tweet about whatever happens. So definitely go follow us. I need to put it. Is it in this description on this channel? It's not. I need to copy over the description from the main channel. This channel, but go follow us on Twitter. All right, what next, Eric?
Well, Alex Wolf asked the question: is Jabari Walker going to be on a two-way? So they haven't announced that yet. I think they're kind of waiting to see if they need to sign him to a cheap roster spot or not. But there is some information on that. I don't know if you saw the free agency video, or not free agency, the draft video of Jabari and his agent waiting to see who was going to take them. But in that video, they accidentally showed the agent's computer while he was sitting there, and under Portland it said something to the effect of very likely a two-way contract or something, but good landing spot or something like that. And so that gives us some insight that they're probably going to use the other two-way on him and not give him an actual contract this year.
Yeah, and there were some good undrafted free agents too, potentially signed to a two-way, and if we sign Jabari Walker to a main contract, I'm fine with that. I'm just mad that we didn't pounce on somebody. Like a Dominic Barlow was an undrafted free agent. Orlando Robinson was an undrafted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Who else was there? There's probably a couple other guys I'm forgetting. Any other undrafted free agents that you really liked?
I mean, those are the main guys. Yeah, I mean, some of the guards didn't make sense in our situation, obviously, but...
Yeah, I would honestly rather have, like, an Alondes Williams on a two-way than a Brandon Williams, but that's not...
Right, I'm just saying if we're assuming we weren't cutting Brandon Williams, but yeah.
Absolutely. Ibu Baji, what's up with him, man? What's he gonna do?
I don't know. I think, like I said at the draft, I think a lot of the international guys, they can make more money playing overseas than on a two-way here, so I don't know if they're going to sign a two-way. I mean, some of them just want to play in the NBA or come over to America and get established here, hoping that eventually that'll lead to an NBA contract, so I don't really know his situation. I do know that his season is actually still going, so he was playing games as of a few days ago, so I don't know if they're just waiting for that to be over or what, but...
Yep. Alrighty. So let's talk a little bit about draft. So, what are your thoughts on Shaedon Sharpe? Like, have your thoughts changed at all since draft night? How are you feeling about that pick? A few days removed from the draft.
So, I still don't really think it makes sense. It makes sense drafting the best player they think is going to be best player available. Always makes sense. But in terms of what they're trying to accomplish, along with some other rumors I've heard, it seems like they're kind of doing the opposite of what they said they were going to try and do differently than they've done in the past few years, if that makes sense.
What are those other rumors? We're going to have to we're gonna have to dig those up.
One of them is, Matisse Thybulle, who's been out there and rumors, stuff like
gross.
that. Like,
Ew.
well,
yeah.
I mean,
again, Kenyon Martin, I guess, yeah.
And yeah, Kenyon Martin would fall into this same category, which we'll dive into this more later.
Yeah, you're just looked at as an insider now, so it's like, ooh, Eric has a nugget for us.
But like, the thing is, I've been told that that's the type of players they're looking for, is like those kind of wings, like defensive wings. And they're not necessarily the biggest guys, They're more like shooting guard, small forward types, not power forward, center types, So that combined with the draft, I'm just wondering like where the athletic big forwards are coming from,
Yeah.
And so that's the only reason that I'm still kind of confused. But if you just go ahead.
Well, I think with both Kenyon Martin Jr. and Matisse Thybulle, I just feel like they're not willing to give up much for them at all. It's just they have a $6.5 million TP and a $3.2 million TP. Yeah. So it's like they just think, a future second for one of those guys. is good value.
For sure.
So
yep. And that's exactly what they're looking at. They're just trying to pick up as many defensive minded wings as they can for as cheaply as possible,
which I don't hate.
Yeah, it's a good strategy in my mind. Especially, so there's guys like Thibault who are established good defenders, so at the very least when you trade for him, you're going to get a guy who's going to compete on the defensive end, right? Whereas someone like Cameron Reddish, stuff like that, that's more like the guys we used to go after, to where you hope with that athleticism and athletic frame and stuff like that we'd be able to have Chauncey turn him into a defensive specialist, a shutdown, lockdown wing defender with that size. But once again, we're just like hoping for that. Whereas I think a lot of the players they're targeting are actually established, well-known defenders already. So we can just bring them in and serve a role situationally instead of going after guys that you would hope would fill that role, but you're not sure of, and have a chance to go the other way, like we saw with Norm and stuff like that, to where you're questioning their effort some minutes.
Yeah. So your feelings on the Sharp pick.
So back to Sharp.
Yeah.
I'm actually, so hearing them talk about Sharp, like I've said this before, or I said it in the draft, I said it almost immediately after I made the comments. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for just being kind of quiet and introvert, stuff like that. I am still kind of concerned about, hopefully he has a good enough basketball IQ to make apparently he works really hard and all that stuff. So I'm hoping that his work ethic and stuff shines through, and that it was just him being, unfamiliar with the whole media process, since he didn't really get that at Kentucky either. So that could have been all it is. I'm still concerned that, to me, I prefer, if you're going to be a star, to be both like a student of the game, like a really smart player, in addition to having that work ethic and drive. It doesn't discredit you automatically from being able to do that. So I think the jury's still out on that. But if Chauncey, Cronin, Dame apparently is like this too, if they all believe in him and think that that's not a big deal, then there's no reason why I should feel like it's a big deal. So until that actually comes up as a problem, I'm just going to completely strip that from the record and say I was probably wrong on that. And unless something happens to where it brings that back up again, I'll just say that was not right of me to say, and I shouldn't have said that. But
I knew right when you said that.
Right,
that we were gonna draft him. I was like, oh, now
I know.
That's literally the first thought that went through my head. It's like, yeah, we're definitely getting him now. But yeah, I mean, his interviews are he just seems quiet. I don't know. And that's the thing. You're talking about a guy who just turned 19. Well, give him some time to mature. Yeah. And Ant was super quiet and just kind of reserved. Yeah. Not that didn't talk like that, but yeah.
I said this about Anthony Edwards too, and I'll say this about Anthony Simons. I just got a much better sense that they had the. I don't know. They knew the game of basketball a lot better at that age, and it just could be, like I said, he doesn't come across as being able to articulate that in an interview, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But
he makes. Let me just say this: he makes some good defensive rotations at times, because he'll have some super impressive blocks around the rim. But if you watch him on a lot of those plays, he's rotating and kind of recognizing, a cutter quickly, or recognizing things quickly. I think that he processes the game quickly. He has some impressive passing moments. So it's with a guy, especially you can tell that in general, he's just kind of quiet or reserved. I don't know. I'm just going to assume he can't articulate things the way he probably wants to. Some guys just know the game and can't, articulate it quite which is weird to us. That's all me and you do is articulate the game or try to. So, that's the thing. You get guys like this that I feel just don't, or maybe articulate the game well, but do, know basketball well.
I agree with what Beek says. It seems like he doesn't watch much basketball, you know, and that's what I was talking about being a student of the game. I think a lot of really, truly great players understand how to watch other players pick up on tendencies, learn their tendencies. So when you match up against them, things like that, which are all learnable things. So hopefully, you know, you get these guys in a developmental program of Chauncey's system or whatever. And once again, it has nothing to do with being a quiet guy. I know people in chat keep saying that. It has nothing to do with being quiet. Like that's not what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if he's quiet or not. I just kind of paused at some of his answers he had. But that being said, I think I'm all in on this guy. I'm convinced. I still have question marks how he's going to get minutes. I still have question marks where he fits in if Ant and Dame are both on this team for the next few years and both playing at a high level like I think Ant will go. But if he can somehow play big enough to play small forward, or at least part of the time there, I think we're all right. I think we're okay, and I think it's a good problem to have multiple players that all have star potential. And I truly believe with Ant and Sharp now that backcourt, even post Dame, could be maybe even better than the Dame and CJ backcourt.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had this much of a gut feeling that somebody's going to become a star that's like a Portland Trailblazer draft pick since they drafted Dame, which I was begging for Dame back in 2012. I was begging for the Blazers to draft Dame. I mean, physically and athletically, nothing is going to hold him back. The flashes that he shows on both ends of the floor is why I really liked him and why I included him in my ideal offseason for the Portland Trailblazers, where I was like, even if we get a high draft pick, we could trade back and take Sharp. Because, I mean, just a lot of things he does off the dribble is just in how smooth he is with it. That's the big thing for me, is how smooth he is with a lot of his stuff, and how light on his feet he is. I think his first step needs to get a little bit better, but with a guy with that level of athleticism, I feel like you get him in an NBA weight training program, you do some, stuff to try and increase his, first step, that sort of thing. I feel like it'll be beneficial for him because it's not like he's just unathletic. So, I mean, offensively, I think this is the perfect situation for him because you have Chauncey who's going to help him learn how to make the right reads. That's something Chauncey's really good at. You're going to have Dame that's going to mentor him with a lot of the crafty things that Dame does to create space, to finish around the rim. And you already have evidence with Anthony Simons, in my opinion, that Dame's a good mentor. Anthony Simons coming into the league rookie year, sure, he could do some things, but his level of craft wasn't super high. He was mostly just a three-point shooter and didn't really know how to create space or do much off the dribble, or didn't really have much craft finishing around the rim, would just kind of shy away from contact and do these little fadeaway runners. And that was kind of the case even last season, but this season, a big reason why Anthony Simons took such a jump is because he was being crafty around the rim. He was doing little things to create space, manipulating defenders with his hips. His dribble moves were a little sharper, and he had a lot of dribble moves that looked like they were right out of Dame's playbook. I mean, the clear one was the one against Memphis, and there was a tweet with Dame and Ant side by side when Ant did that side step to the right, step back fadeaway to seal the game in Memphis, and it looked pretty much identical. Mm-hmm. Sharp already does that move. Sharp already has a lot of solid things in his bag. He just needs to create more space off them. So it's with Chauncey as a mentor to help him with his reads, with Dame as a mentor to kind of help him learn some of the little tricks that Dame knows that he's already helped Ant with Ant to potentially help him. We haven't ever looked at Ant as a potential mentor, but Ant did the same thing where he went straight from high school to the NBA. That could be somebody that Sharp could lean on. And it's serious locker room. You don't have any locker room questions. He's not going to be under pressure to like start and produce right away. He can be brought along slowly, while still, I think, getting some minutes. I think this is the perfect situation for him out of any team that could have drafted him, and I'm very excited for what's to come long term. Like, my gut just tells me that this dude is going to be a star.
Yeah, I mean, definitely get that feeling, and I mean, there's numerous scouts and NBA personnel that agree with that. XC Dep says, not trying to be a jerk, Eric, but I hope Sharp kills it this year and starts at the 3 before the year's over. Man, dude, I would love that. I don't know why people think I want him to fail. I'm all in on Sharp. Like, he's a Blazer. He's our guy. I was just addressing the concerns I had prior to the draft for him. And Brady Moat says I'm a petty jerk or something, and like I'm being too critical or whatever.
I mean, Eric walked back his comments, man. Like he apologized for like his take, and that's like Eric's already owned up to that. You don't need to sit here and like hold it over him or anything. Like, Eric's gonna speak his mind, and you know, if he says something he thinks he said wrong, he'll apologize, which he did. So just accept it. Like.
And I'm not just gonna talk about every player like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread and there's no flaws in anyone's game. Sharp has reasons for concern. He hasn't played in a while. He's super raw. He's obviously hasn't really had a lot of experience playing against good competition. These are definite concerns, and I'm not saying that I don't believe in him, because I'm preface that by saying I feel like I was wrong and I do believe in him now, just based on, I think I was just getting, basically I think his agent is not very good unless he was purposely trying to get to the Blazers, but yeah.
His agent isn't a guy that like he's never had clients before. Isn't it like his AU coach or something?
Yeah,
so somebody that like he knows who's not actually an agent?
Sharp isn't Sharp is his only client, and it's his first NBA client. I don't know if he's done other sports or whatever, but in terms of the NBA, it's his only client. And I felt like, I mean, this is going to be, we're going to look back at this and say, thank goodness he did, because if Sharp would have either played at Kentucky and maybe shown something, or if he would have worked out for more teams, or if he would have shown up better in interviews or just skip media availability, so we didn't see any of these interviews. I think there's no way he'd last till 7, possibly, if he shows more and throughout the process. So I think the fact that some of these teams had these same question marks that I was bringing up allowed him to fall to 7 when he could be the best player in the draft. And I think that's the reason why a lot of other teams had these same concerns. Otherwise, why wouldn't the Pacers would have picked him at 6th or whatever over Mathurin, right? If they didn't have these same concerns. So I think the process is going to ultimately pay off for Portland. And if it does, I'm obviously happy that it happened to us instead of us passing on him and him becoming a star for another team. I just like to go through my process of both good and bad with every prospect. Even if we would have taken my favorite player, Mathurin or whatever, I still would have there would have been concerns I had about him, whether he's still big enough to play the 3 long term and all that kind of stuff. The same kind of process I would have had. And but
if we drafted like Mathurin, I'd probably be voicing more concerns than you. You know what I mean?
Probably,
like that's the thing. But... You know, like somebody's gonna be voicing some concerns. Like, you know, we're talking about really good players, but none of them are flawless. Like...
So what I've heard is that like Sharp hasn't basically left the gym since he's been drafted and stuff. Like, this guy lives in the gym, right? So
I mean, I'd
love to hear that stuff. Yeah,
people compared his personality a bit to, or like the way he talked, to Kawhi. If he has Kawhi's work ethic, we're freaking set, and we won the draft.
Right.
So if that's the case, then let's go.
But Kawhi, like, so the quiet thing, Kawhi is obviously probably one of the most quiet players of all time, right? Like, you never really hear much about him. But, like, he also, like you said, has the work ethic. And, I mean, the dude is, like, very, very intelligent on the floor.
Well,
And
let me ask you this: like, can you learn how to be intelligent on the floor? Because
yes,
that's the thing. It's like if you have a really hard work ethic and you can develop basketball IQ or like
100%.
knowing certain things. So that's the thing is like if he has a hard work ethic, I'm not worried about it basically.
Yeah. Well, that's why, I mean, during the draft, I said this a lot about I was worried about certain players going to Houston or whatever, because, like, I don't know if they're going to learn that same way, But yeah, in our situation, I feel like you can. Case in point, Andrew Wiggins. That's the ultimate recent example of a guy who had, just as much talent to be good as anyone in the league, but was thought of as like kind of a waste of that talent, right? Until he goes to Golden State and he becomes an all-star, maybe unfairly, but the dude showed out, including playing well in the playoffs, and did a lot of cool things. Yeah, I think you can learn that. I'm just laughing at that. Yeah.
I'm really confused right now. Yeah, so DJ Vega wanted you to read the rest of his comment. I think he thinks you took a little out of context by what he did or something.
No, I mean, I know he said, I know you'll be happy too at the end of it, but why even say the first part then if you know I'm going to be happy?
Yeah, honestly, you weren't even being a jerk at all. Like, if you just, like, left out not to be a jerk, your comment would have been completely fine. Like,
I wasn't calling you out. I was more mad at Brady Moat for saying that I was being petty or whatever. I was actually, like, the opposite. I'm saying, like, I'm not being petty. I'm trying to change my mind on
it. Yeah. Like, don't insult Eric, man. I mean, Eric, like, that's what we're here to do. We're here to speak our mind and give our opinions. Sometimes, and it's like we don't hold back. Sometimes that can rub people the wrong way with certain opinions. Sometimes it might be justified. Sometimes it might not be justified. Like, some people just don't like, that maybe we don't like the head coach in previous years and therefore have an issue with us because of that, just because we're speaking our mind on that. But, like, that's the thing. When you are on stream all the time, giving your opinions on things, like, yeah, sometimes wording will be a little messed up. Like, it's all good. I've done that too, and I've, had to walk back a take or two as well. So that's the thing. It's hard. Like, no, we're not gonna sit up here and be perfect with how we explain our takes or how we word things, but we'll try our best. And if we walk something back, just respect it. And and we're all good basically. So anyway.
XDDEP, it's not a big deal. I'm not even questioning you. It's all good, man.
Yeah. I think you guys are on different pages and just we're all good.
But so thinking about it more in terms of Sharp, if he's going to be a star, like, I hate to do this like comparison because I'm not saying he's going to be this person, but Kobe Bryant played 15 minutes a game his rookie year. And I think that is the blueprint for how they should handle Sharp. I don't think you should necessarily force him minutes, but I think you should throw him into the fire and just get him game action. I don't think him not playing much this year will help a lot, because that would be 2 years basically sitting out. So I think in terms of his development, I think you have to at least give him around 15 minutes a game. Just get him into NBA action. Hopefully you have a lot of teachable moments from the film, from those minutes. And if this guy processes that quickly and earns more minutes, I mean, that's nothing but good for the Blazers this season. And in the future, obviously, the better he is, the more likely it would be to him getting more than the 15 minutes. But I think I think you just throw him in the fire and give him 15 minutes a game. You laid out a perfect minutes plan earlier today, and you should probably bring that up right now.
So, yeah, I mean, you have Josh Hart as your third guard, and he can play a little bit of three. So hypothetically, you stagger Dame and Anthony Simons. You play Dame 36 minutes a game at the point guard spot. You can play Ant like 35 minutes a game. I think he's ready, if he plays 35 minutes a game. Like CJ's role, basically. And he plays 12 of those minutes at the backup point guard spot and 23 of those minutes at the starting shooting guard spot, which leaves, 48 minutes per game per position, obviously. So 48 minus 23. That leaves 25 minutes at the backup shooting guard spot for Josh Hart. Then you play Josh Hart like 7 minutes a game at a backup small forward spot. So you got Dame at 36, Ant at 35 minutes per game, Hart at 32 minutes per game, contender for 6th man of the year. Then you start, at this point, I think you start Nas to be that on-ball perimeter defender, and hopefully he can find a little bit more consistency in other areas of the game. You play him like 26 minutes a game, right, at small forward. So you have Nas at 26, Hart at 7, that's 33 minutes at small forward, and then you have 15 minutes left over to give to Sharp. And if Sharp, if Nas is playing really well and Sharp's struggling, then maybe you play Nas 32 minutes a game and you play Sharp like 9, like you can even cut his a little bit more. And I think that's how you do things. Assuming we don't get like a player that's going to play the 3.
Someone was asking how many minutes Anthony Edwards played his rookie year. That was 32 minutes, but he was on a 23-win team. So, I think that's a completely different situation. If we didn't have Dame and we weren't trying to win, right away, then sure, just throw him out there. Him and Ant can just get all the minutes they want and backcourt of the future, right? But I think in this situation, I think we should bring him on a little slower than that, unless he shows that he's ready. But I wouldn't expect him to be great this season, but if he is, that's, like I said, it's better for us, both short term and long term.
Yeah, and if you guys want to give a few less minutes to Dame or Ant, you could play Dame, Ant, and Hart 33 minutes a game, and Nas 30 and Sharp 15. You know what I mean? And then Justice Winslow, maybe he factors in, plays a little bit of 3. I don't know. You can come up with a bunch of different combinations, but basically, I think at this point, unless there's a clear upgrade, I think we have point guards, shooting guards, small forward set. Here's the thing with Shaedon Sharp, and the argument that I have with people, okay? People think that your ability to play a certain position is solely dependent on your height. I look at standing reach, because when you're contesting a shot, you're reaching up with your hand. You're not contesting with your head. When you're grabbing a rebound, you're grabbing it with your hands. When you're, trying to deflect a pass or whatever, you play basketball with your hands, not the top of your head, right? Like, having a taller forehead, if Shaedon Sharp had a 12 head, it's not going to make him a better defender. It's not going to change anything, right? So that's an argument that I've had with people, is standing reach is the number one thing to look at when trying to determine if a guy can play a certain position. Shaedon Sharp's standing reach is 8'7.5". The average standing reach for a small forward, I was just looking through this, is basically 8'7.5" to 8'8". He has an average standing reach. But then also he's really athletic, quick jumper, so if he's jumping on a contest, he's probably having better shot contests. When he's rebounding, he's probably getting higher for rebounds as well. So I do not think that lengthwise, Shaedon Sharp can't play the 3. I think he is a 3. And a 3 that can play some 2. But I think, he is going to be fine playing small forward. I think he needs to get a little stronger, but I think he's a guy that's going to get stronger pretty quickly, just by looking at his body. So I have no problems playing him at the small forward position whatsoever.
Yeah, I think the only pushback I'd say is if you're trying to make the Dame Ant backcourt work, I do kind of see some people's point that you do need maybe bigger forwards than even if he's average size. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't agree with that. I'm just trying to counterpoint yours.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be you have a small forward that could slide down and guard 1s and 2s, hopefully, to cover for Ant or Dame, and then you put them on a 3? Yeah, if that's not a capable 3.
And I know you're confident that Sharp could do that. I think that's a wait and see for me.
It's a wait and see. I think he's. Here's the thing with talking about his defense: is this two different conversations between what I think he'll be defensively, because I don't really know, or what I think he's capable of. I think he's capable defensively because I think he has the length and the athleticism, and laterally, I think he's quick when he's engaged. The problem is, it's hard to get a good feel for him because he was like, so many times he was just lackadaisical defensively. But I saw a comment earlier, I think it was David Yu, if it was somebody else, I apologize. But somebody said that like when he was playing at FIBA in like higher competition, he was stepping it up defensively and looked good. Whereas when he was playing like, some lower level high school ball, he was just kind of like his motor wasn't there and he didn't give much effort on some plays. But like, rotating over and protecting the rim for a small forward, like with his jumping ability, he can do that, and I think he can slide his feet, has quick enough feet, and has a long wingspan. I don't think I think he's very capable of being a good defensive player. It might take a little time, but I don't see how people criticize his. I see people criticizing his defense as like a general thing and acting like he's incapable of being a good defender when I absolutely don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the FIBA stuff's a good point, but still would like to see him just in actual action. And yeah, it's tough. I mean, you can watch all the film from 2 years ago that you can, but it's just, I don't know. It's for me, I just want to see it on a floor before I get too excited, either in a negative way or in a positive way about it.
Yep. I see a comment saying, true shooting guard, undersized small forward for Shaedon Sharpe. He's an oversized shooting guard, true small forward. His standing reach is pretty equal to average small forwards. Like, there's stats on this. Like, lengthwise, he's average small forward.
I mean, to me, yes, height, standing reach, wingspan, all that stuff plays a factor into how good a defender you are. But like Pat Beverly is a good player. He's one of the smallest players in the league. A good defender. He's one of the smallest players in the league. Lou Dort can guard small forwards and power forwards. He's 6'2", 6'3", right? Draymond Green is like 6'6", and he plays a lot of center and against much bigger players and things like that. It's you have to have a mindset to be a good defender. Josh Hart is actually really good guarding power forwards and small forwards. But he's the same size as some of our players. Like, so I don't look at it as like, oh, Josh Hart can't play small forward or whatever. I just think it takes a mindset, and I'm hoping that they put that mindset into Sharpe and hopefully Jabari Walker too. But all of our guys, I think that's what they're going for, is guys who have the mindset to compete on defense. And the more guys they get like that, I think it feeds to other people. And hopefully Dame, Ant, Sharpe, that trio, between the three of them, at least two of them can turn into positive defenders.
Yep. Definitive one. As a day one OG, I'm a little bit disappointed with this comment, man. He says, so if we have a 5'6" guy with a 7'3" wingspan and an 8'5" standing reach, should he be our starting center? An 8'5" standing reach is drastically undersized for a starting center. And good luck finding somebody with a standing reach.
Norm, pal.
Yeah, good luck finding somebody with a standing reach 3 feet taller than their height. Good luck. I mean, even like Mark Williams, who's 7 foot, his standing reach isn't 3 feet taller than his height. You know what I mean? Like, so good luck. But no, I don't understand that. I don't understand how that's what you're getting from this.
If there was
this
a 5'6" guy with a 7'3" wingspan, first of all, his hands would probably touch the floor when he walked.
Yeah.
But second of all, like that guy would probably, if he was good at basketball, yes, the 5'6" thing would be less of an issue. Yeah. But like I said, it's all part of an equation. But I don't think there's some magic formula that because if you look at like the all defensive teams, there's all kinds of different sizes on there. And I asked this question to someone on Twitter yesterday who was pushing back against you and amongst several other people about the size thing. Like, so if we got Tobias Harris as our starting small forward over Sharpe or Hart, who's a little taller with a better standing reach, but not quite the defensive player that Hart is, like, does that automatically mean our defense is better? No, it doesn't. That doesn't mean anything. So you not only need the standing reach, but you need the mindset and the attitude and the toughness to play defense. And so that's why I like that Portland's targeting those guys, Now, they might still not be big enough because we still don't really have much depth at center or power forward in terms of like known defensive stoppers. But like, I think they're trying to put as many players on the roster with a good positive attitude on defense as possible.
What's funny about that is, what year did Tobias Harris get drafted? Do you know? 2016?
I think he was 14 or 15, actually.
Huh. I'm trying to...
Are you looking at his measurements?
Yeah, because his measurements aren't as good as people think they are. If somebody can find his standing reach, let me know. But I'm pretty sure his standing reach is like 8'6", and Hart's is like 8'5.5".
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I mean, I'd rather have the more competitive guy defensively. It's not just measurements. If measurements determined how good defensively somebody was, we would just start 5, of the tallest people in the world. We'd go find an 8-footer and give him millions of dollars to play D.
I got it. So, he had, he was 6'6.5" without shoes. 6'11" wingspan, 8'7.5" standing reach.
Oh, 8'7". Okay, a little better than I thought, but that's equal to Shaden Sharp's.
That's. So he's a couple inches taller, but not quite. I mean, the other measurements are pretty much equal.
Yeah, I mean, he could have a longer neck. You know what I mean? Like, that's maybe why he's taller. It's.
But that longer neck means he's a better defender, Tori.
Yeah, obviously.
So eat it.
Deflect passes with his head because he's got this giraffe neck, I guess. I don't know, man. Anyway. Weight is a factor on defense, too. And I said he's going to need to get a little bit stronger.
So we have guys like Lou Dort. We both thought this way. He came in with an NBA-ready body or whatever. But, like, there's not a lot of young players that have that strength to be a good defender right away. So they do need to, I mean, everyone, you could say that about everyone. They need to add strength. And I mean, Anthony Simons, I feel like is the same way. Once he starts putting on a little bit of old man muscle and strength, that guy's going to be a lot tougher on defense as well.
Definitive One said he was kidding. He said he was thinking of someone like Donkey Kong. Yeah, good. You trolled me then, Definitive. I was going to say, man, I didn't expect that out of you. I thought you were being serious. It's just, there's so many arguments that I think are kind of silly that I can't tell when people are joking or not. So, put the little /S on the end and I will know. Otherwise, you might think it's completely a joke and I might take it completely seriously. That's the problem with text and the internet. Anyway, so I'm all in on Sharp. I'm excited. Summer League's gonna be fun. I love that he's playing Jaden Ivey game 1. What a true test right off the bat for him. I think some people need to here's one thing I'm worried about just with the fan base though, Eric. I don't want people to get so excited for him that he can't match that off the bat and then they're disappointed in him. That's the one thing I'm worried about. So might have to have some patience with him. I mean, he hasn't played college basketball even, so he's gonna take some time, I think. But
well,
he might be. Hopefully, he's ready to play. Some spot minutes right away. Go ahead.
We draft Zach Collins, and the thought is he's not going to be ready for a year or two to even contribute to a roster. But once he does, watch out. But then we draft the most seemingly, not ready to play because of just the sitting out a year player in the top 10, and people are expecting him to be like a star right away. So it's pretty fun. Yeah.
This is a good question. Taylor Packer says, how much stock do you put into Summer League? What conclusions can I draw from performances?
Okay, so Taylor Packer's obviously a Blazer Uprise watcher, right? There are... I
mean, I hope so, because he's in our chat.
It matters how they play, I think.
Yeah.
What? Because Dame. I mean, you could tell Dame was going to be a star right away, right?
Yeah.
But Jared Bayless, a few years earlier, I think that was 2009, was also, I think it might have been MVP or co-MVP or something. And he got almost all his points in Summer League off free throws and driving to the hoop and stuff. And his shot didn't look great and stuff. And defensively was kind of a question mark. So you were excited about him, but you didn't know how it fit in necessarily. As Blazer fan mentions in chat, Batum looked like he was not even close to an NBA player, and then he comes here and basically starts from day one and was like a key contributor right away. So I don't look at. I know Tori probably will bring up the Gary Trent example, where he had a lot of games where he scored a lot of points, but he also did nothing else in some of those games, and had no rebounding, no assists, just was a chucker and stuff like that. I don't want to see that out of Sharp necessarily. I know he can probably score well. I just want to see how he fits in, especially since a lot of our players that are going to be on the roster are going to be playing Summer League, and I just I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yep, I think you're gonna be able to tell from Summer League if it's a situation where going into training camp, Sharp is battling for the starting small forward spot, and obviously this depends on what happens in free agency and everything, but I think you're gonna be able to tell after free agency if it's going to be Sharp's going to come into free agency or into training camp with a legitimate chance to be the starting small forward, or if it's a situation where it's okay, Sharp's going to come in and have to earn some backup minutes, or if it's a situation where, okay, he's probably not going to be ready yet. Anything more, I don't think you can come to more conclusions than that based on his play. I think you're just going to be able to tell, how far along he is. I don't think you can come to any long-term conclusions. At least negative long-term conclusions, because that's the thing. You should expect that he struggles considering he hasn't played college ball or really played at the level of even Summer League, and has had a lot happen and is going to have some pressure going up against Jaden Ivey, and supposedly he handles pressure well, but he should struggle in Summer League even, so if he does, I'm not worried about that. But if he comes in and outplays Jaden Ivey and drops 30 on him, is just gets to spots consistently against one of the better athletes, I mean, then I'm pretty confident in him long term.
The hype train has left the building at that point.
Yeah, it's I don't see him disappointing me in Summer League. Even if he struggles, I'm kind of expecting that. If he plays well, then I'll be excited. So I'm
just looking for him to compete on defense and look like he has the moves. I mean, that Kobe Bryant example, we saw him at the end of his first playoff series airballing a bunch of threes, It wasn't perfect right off the bat with him either. I just want to see him look like an NBA player. Versus look like shell-shocked or anything like that. But Maurice Hayes brings up the ultimate example for you, Tori. After a game or two in Summer League last year, what were people saying about a performance of a certain player on our team, right? When Antonio Blakeney was the next thing, we have to sign this guy immediately.
Oh my goodness.
He's better than CJ, right? Get this guy on our roster, right? And that
I haven't thought about that in so long, and I was happy not thinking about that ever again, man, because oh my goodness, that drove me crazy how fans just took 2 Summer League games. I had seen Antonio Blakeney in person when I went to Summer League in 2017, light it up. There's going to be scores in Summer League that just score a bunch of points, but in the NBA, they are inefficient, are horrible defenders, don't pass, and you're going to have that as a role player on your team? No. Absolutely not. So, the Antonio Blakeney talk last year drove me crazy with how everybody was begging for us to sign him, and I don't know, Josh Gray. We've announced a couple Summer League signings. I just hope we don't have a guy like that.
Right. Yeah.
Nothing against them. It's just we have a lot of good young guys, so I want to see them be the offensive options.
The only way I want vets is if they're just there for support and not playing, but because I don't know if you saw the announcement, but apparently Watford, Brown, Brandon Williams, Keon Sharp, Jabari Walker are all playing. I think I forgot someone too. All those guys are playing in summer league for the Blazers. And man, I want to see Watford throwing lobs to Sharp and Greg Brown and doing all this crazy stuff, man. That would be awesome. If Sharp shows that he can cut and plays off of Watford, and it's kind of like the Nurk role, you know. Mm-hmm. I think that could be something that could get him on the court, getting more playing time right away. Is if he situationally has a good feel for that kind of stuff, when to cut, when to stay on the 3-point line and space the floor. And if he's knocking down threes and cutting well, man, that guy could see action right away, especially in an offense that we're trying to create that's more like the free-flowing Warriors offense.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to have a good summer league team. It's going to be fun. Shout out Rip City 208, $2 donor. He says, Kyle Anderson or TJ Warren for the MLE, who you got? I don't really want either of those guys. I know a lot of people have talked about TJ Warren, but I think we need an on-ball defender or a backup big man with our MLE signing, and Warren's neither of those. So Kyle Anderson's a better defender, but I don't know, man. Like, just something about his game, it's not even the fact that he plays slow, because I actually love how he's able to get to his spots at his own pace and that sort of thing. I just don't think he's a good enough on-ball defender. I think he's maybe a little bit overrated in that regard, and shooting's a question mark, and I don't know. I would rather just play Nas then instead of get Kyle Anderson.
Yeah.
So what about you?
So I have some bad news for people.
Okay.
Some of these, if you follow me on Twitter, you might know some of these already. But just doing the math for this video, that'll be out soon. I don't think we're going to have the full MLE.
Yeah, I mean, it depends.
So,
because I saw somebody do the math, and we still had room for the full MLE.
Well, just to be clear, why the full MLE would hard cap us, right?
Yep.
And so, if Anthony and Nurkic combined for about $40 million, which would be 25 and 15, I think that's probably the high end, right?
Yeah.
So that's puts us at, if we use the full mid-level exception, we would be roughly $200,000 below the hard cap line, but only have 13 players.
And that's doing what with Bledsoe?
Cutting Bledsoe. So
is that stretching him though?
No, not stretching him. Obviously, that would probably come into play, even though I don't want to stretch anyone. This is assuming that we're not stretching anyone, but yeah.
I mean, I would assume we'd stretch him, and then, I mean, like, in that case, we probably... I know they talk like they love Justice Winslow, but I feel like they would maybe move off Justice Winslow in that situation. Does that involve Ingles coming back at all?
That's without Ingles, and that was going to bring me to my next point. So if they were going to re-sign Ingles at all, you could say, well, maybe Ansel are going to make 20 and Nurk makes 12 or whatever, but then that difference is probably $7 million to Ingles, right? Yeah. So you can make it work and only have 14 players under contract and be just under that cap line. But at the same time, Checo, we do not need that. He's got great knowledge, but Tori and I know our stuff as well. But thank you. Anyways, so we could possibly re-sign the three of them and then use the full mid-level exception, be hard capped. I just don't think that makes sense with what I'm hearing in terms of going after players like Thibault and Kenyon Martin Jr. If we get one of those guys, then that plan, I mean, we could stretch. It's going to be really close to being at that line, right? So I don't know if they're going to do that. I think they might just use the trade exceptions, use the tax mid-level exception, and kind of work from there, and then it wouldn't matter what we pay Ants, Nurk, and Ingalls if they keep him.
Yeah.
Because just for the record, if they use the tax mid-level exception, which is a little over $6 million instead of the $10 million one, they wouldn't get hard capped, and they could go as far over as they needed to re-sign or in trades or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm doing the math myself, just looking at it. I'm sure.
I mean, I have it all right in front of me.
I just have the spreadsheet. Yeah, it's iffy. Because, that's like 40 mil for Nurk and Simons. That's 40 mil for Dan. It's like 82, 21 mil for Grant. That's 103 mil already.
13 for Hart.
13 for Hart.
5.4 for
116.
4.1
121.
for Little.
Yeah, you're getting up to like 126. And then you have dead money, which is like another 3. That's 129 plus minimums plus... Yeah, that's going to get up into hard caps. Like
Didi, Greg, Trendon.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we move off. Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe we move off, a Keon and a Justice Winslow. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I could see them clearing the space to use that full mid-level exception. So I can't sit here and say for sure that, like, I don't think that they will. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, it's like borderline.
This is what... Because... All right, I'm just going to go into some stuff we've heard. I think it's time. Okay. So they're, like, super quiet. Like, not even really discussing free agency. And it's kind of weird. Like, everything they're discussing is like trades related to free agency, like the Thibault situation, right? At the draft, it was contingent on us being the third team because Houston didn't want Thibault and Eric Gordon for 23 type swap, but they had to match salary, blah, blah, blah. So like we're going to come in and get Thibault for cheap for that. Now I've heard that that's still on the table, but it's contingent on some other things that Philly wants to do in free agency. The most obvious thing would be, as being reported, they're going after PJ Tucker for some reason. So Maury's trying to recreate the Houston Rockets with Embiid instead of Capella, I guess. But so I think that's still going to be on the table if certain moves happen with the 76ers and they need a little bit more salary room or roster spots. But like, it just, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me why they're pursuing these other targets and not really caring too much about the mid-level exception if the plan is to try and get someone good with that.
Here's where I'm lost, is the way Cronin talked at his last press conference. He was saying that they know they still need to get better. I feel like he has something that he's going to try, like something up his sleeve, because I don't know why you'd like sit there and be like, yeah, I know we need to get better, and then like sit back and just like not really do anything, because you're basically setting yourself up for criticism. So I don't know why he'd say that if it was just like, yeah, our free agency is going to be as Matisse Thybulle and we're good. Like, well, I'm not saying after you trade for Grant.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm confused.
Get a good player for the tax mid-level, I think.
Yeah, I'm just like, I mean, how good of a player are you going to get, though? Is that going to be something that was like, yeah, see, we knew we needed to get better, and we got T.J. Warren, who's been hurt for forever. Like,
he's sent mixed signals all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if that was another one, because he did say we have to do all this stuff to get better, and then in the exit interview, he was like, well, don't be mad if it's not this year because these things take time, that kind of stuff. So he has kind of walked that back before. So I don't know.
Well, I'm just confused because it's a situation where Portland doesn't really have many assets.
Yeah. Well,
Portland can't trade any firsts. Like, they have zero firsts to trade right now, unless they unprotect their 2023 first to Chicago, which would make sense for somebody like Durant, but that wouldn't make sense for a role player.
Right.
So you have like a couple seconds, and you have like Kenyon Johnson, I guess, is a trade chip, but I mean, like, how are you going to do anything if you only have a taxpayer mid-level exception? Your only trade chip that's like, that you would trade right now is maybe Kenyon Johnson and then second-round picks. That's where I'm just kind of confused as to what their plan is, because you still have a backup power forward and a backup center spot to fill. Now, they could be looking internally for, like, the backup 4 spot, looking at Justice Winslow, which they've spoken too highly with. If Justice Winslow is, like, a for sure part of the rotation next year, I'm mad.
Or Watford.
I know Watford, I would be less mad. Like, if Watford's the guy, then okay. Like, I've seen enough from Watford where it's like, okay, I think you need to play him at the 4 and then get a backup 5 that can shoot. I think that's kind of the problem there. Because Watford, I don't know if you can trust his 3 ball. That's something I'll be looking for in Summer League. But then, like, size-wise, he's a 4. I know he played 5. I know he played the center spot last year, but I think he's a 4. But you don't want a 4 to 5 that can't shoot off the bench, especially because your starting 5 isn't really a shooter either. So that's where I'm kind of confused as to what their plan is for the backup 4 and 5 spots.
Well, that's why I think they're obviously trying to get something done using Bledsoe's contract before it's too late. But
what could that be, though?
I wouldn't be surprised if they pick it up and just be a tax team. And then, like I said, don't get hard capped by using the full mid-level exception. And then, because if they don't do that, then they basically have no way of getting a max level player outside of trading one of your starters after July 10th. So I think there's a possibility.
They still don't even have the assets.
Right.
Though.
No, I know. I'm just saying, well, I mean, trade deadline next year, if we have Bledsoe's contract along with one of Sharper Ant's or something like that, like let's just say one of them is out proving that they should be the long-term player over the other or whatever. I'm just saying, like, we'd have options to make a move. Whereas if we get hard capped, that word flexibility that gets thrown out so often, that goes out the window a little bit, and we're kind of stuck with it. So we've seen Jody in these press conferences being mentioned as very enthusiastic, and we saw her in the videos and stuff. Like, I'm wondering if maybe she's going to overcompensate for them saying the team's not for sale and all this stuff by just going all in and trying to prove that she's dedicated financially to this team or something, and try to throw off the scent about her like trying to be cheap or whatever.
Yeah. What could you use Bledsoe's contract for, though? Because that's the thing is, like, you can't sign and trade for a guy then, because sign and trade gets you hard capped at $156 million too. And that's like, we're battling the hard cap if we just use the $10 million full mid-level exception and have $4 million of dead money for Eric Bledsoe. We're like right at that spot with what Nurkic and Simons are probably going to get. So if you're talking about signing and trading for somebody, make it $20 million with Bledsoe's contract, it doesn't really fit. So I'm really confused, and I'm not expecting much, but I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. What do you feel like they're going to try and do? If they're going to try and do something like not a splash, because they don't have the means for that, but if they do something like good, what do you think their plan is?
It's tough because what I think their plan is doesn't really match up with Bledsoe. But yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a big man that would match. I mean, I guess John Collins wouldn't be off the table.
We just don't have the picks
Yeah.
or the
I don't know if that's someone that they would be willing to unprotect picks for or not.
The only thing I could think would be like Bledsoe and Keon Johnson for like Julius Randle, which I would absolutely hate, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Where like they get off his bad contract and save some money.
Yeah, so Kevin Love. Kevin Love makes like 30 million. That's way too much to match Bledsoe. I mean, we could get there, I guess, but yeah, I'm just trying to think because Bledsoe himself doesn't have any value, so it's just like trading him out. But I mean, maybe there's a big that makes less than that or around that. I was trying to think of one because, like I said, I'm not hearing anything about around big guys. So that makes me think one of two things. Either one, they think there's so many in free agency that they'll be able to easily get one, even if they only have the tax mid-level, and that won't be an issue. Or two, they have a backup center that they could trade Bledsoe for, but they're just waiting to see if they can get something better first. So
you know what I would try and do? I would go back to Detroit and offer Bledsoe for Olynyk and Kemba Walker. Since the Pistons have cap space, they don't have to combine Kemba Walker to Olynyk to match salary. They just traded for Kemba Walker, but they have cap space. So, and then they save like
and get Olynyk.
Yeah, they save like. Let's see. Let me just do the trade in Fanspo so I can see instead of trying to do the math. I just want to see how much Detroit saves there. They save. Yeah, they save about $2.5 million. I don't know if that's enough for them, but and then you get Olynyk and you get Kemba, and Kemba's like a salary trade chip at the deadline, or I don't know.
Yeah. So Chad brings up Nerlens Noel. So there was someone else I was going to mention, but I forgot who it was. But anyways,
well, let me just say on like Olynyk would be a good fit with Watford, by the way, because he can shoot and he's a center.
Joe, man, Joe, come on, dude.
We have to do this all the time. You watch this all the time. You better be trolling. Yeah, we wouldn't be trading for Kemba to get Kemba. We'd be taking on his contract to get Olynyk, and we'd be trading Eric freaking Bledsoe at $19.4 million, bro.
Yeah.
Come on, bro. You've been here too many times when we have had to say this too many times, man.
There's...
Bro, we'll help you calm down, man. Anyway.
Taylor, that's funny. No, we did not like Julius Randle, especially now that we got Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Well, I lost who I was thinking of. Capella would cost too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he makes roughly enough to match on Bledsoe off the top of my head. But yeah, I just think there's so many options, whether it's teams that will want to dump players or other, free agents. There's a ton of like backup center type options that are fine in free agency. So, yeah, I don't really know how to make that work without going deep into the tax if we trade Bledsoe. But the other thing is, and this is going to lead into the next discussion, there has to be a reason why our trade with the Detroit Pistons is not official yet, right?
Yeah.
And there's only really a few explanations. And one of those is, I think maybe if this waits till the new league year, it's very possible that Jeremy Grant might be willing to sign a 2-year extension instead of a longer extension that he might have to wait 4 years from. But we can't do that until the new league year because you can only sign an extension for 3 years, including what's left on your extension. So if he signed that now, he would only be able to sign a 1-year extension on top of getting screwed out of the little bit that's left of this year or whatever. So I don't think they would do that for 1 year. 2 years, $45 million is the most we can offer. So I think maybe he's weighing whether to accept that or risk waiting 6 months to accept a much larger trade. So that's definitely one reason why they could be waiting. But the other reasons, so I talked to Bobby Marks today, and naming my source here, but one of my sources. So Marks, once again, if he happens to ever see this, very, very gracious, always answers when I have a question for him or whatever. So I asked him about why the trade's on hold, if it could possibly be because of an extension, and then he clarified a few things about extended trades and stuff that I was a little unsure about, all that kind of stuff. So all good's asking, why is 2 years 45 the most we can offer? So you can only offer an extended trade a 5% raise of the last year of his contract. So he makes roughly $21 million. So 5% is roughly $22 million. And then you can offer 5% on top of the first year of the extension. So then it's like $23 million. So rough math, it's $45 million on top of the $21 million he'll make next year. So that's the max we can offer him in an extension right now. Now, if you trade for him and he doesn't sign the extension, the rule is you have to wait 6 months to be able to extend him. So it could be that they simply have a handshake agreement in 6 months. They've already worked out the details of that, and they say in December or January 1st or whatever day it ends up being, we will sign you to this contract or whatever. So the only reason why Grant would possibly give up that money, in my opinion, is he was battling a knee injury last year. You never know if you're going to tear your Achilles or break your leg. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen to any Blazers or anyone. But if he does get hurt or something this season and passed up guaranteed $45 million, and he'd still be a free agent in 2 years, so it's not like he couldn't necessarily make up that money down the road. So I think maybe he's weighing that. But so Bobby Marks said that the holdup, he said this was just a guess, but it had something to do with the Detroit, New York part of it. So that got me thinking like what that could be, because how it was worded when those trades went down was that the Jeremy Grant trade created a trade exception for them, right? And then Kemba went into part of that trade exception for Detroit, and then so they just get Durant for basically taking on Kemba's contract, right? So then I was thinking,
why do they even need the trade exception to take on Kemba when they're going to have cap space?
But that's what I was. So that's why I was got scared. Anyways, so I was like, well, why did they? Because they technically don't have cap space because Marvin Bagley has like a $28 million cap hold. So they don't really have cap space. They can make cap space if they renounced him or signed him to a much lower contract or whatever. But they really don't have a ton of cap space. And maybe they're going to do, like we always talked about, is just operate as a team over the cap and keep all their trade exceptions and stuff like that. So they're trying to maximize it. So then I was thinking, well, could they maybe be trying to create like a 950,000 more contract TPE to get like there's a player that only fits if it's 950,000 more, but then I was thinking that doesn't make sense because Kemba's contract also goes up in the new league year, so that would offset any savings there. So and then I was thinking like, well, why wouldn't they just include that as part of our trade and then just match if there was another player, they could just match that with Grant's outgoing as part of our trade. So it all comes back to me, either there's another player in this trade that's maybe going to us, like we just mentioned, looking for a backup center is, I mean, I don't really like Nerlens Noel, but I mean, his contract, I mean, maybe it fits in somehow with this, and then we include Bledsoe. I don't know, but there's got to be some reason why this trade is not going through. If it's not for an extension for Jeremy Grant, that can't take place until the new league year, or some sort of twist in this. It seems like a trade that should have already gone through. So I don't understand what the weight is from any of the ends of the three teams. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, and that's the thing is like it could all be dependent on Jalen Brunson then.
Well, so someone else said that to me, that maybe they're waiting to see if the Knicks sign Brunson before but like Portland wouldn't agree to wait for another team to go through free agency and try to sign Jalen Brunson before they did something, right?
Why not?
Well, like, why wouldn't we want Grant right now? Like, why would we be willing to wait? And
because I don't think it changes anything for us.
But what would be in it for us?
Maybe it's like if we get an extra second round pick or something for waiting. I don't know. Like, maybe there's some sort of kickback,
I mean,
it's like it doesn't change
New York's
anything that
already
we
getting
do.
ripped off for Durant.
Well, New York's not even the one. New York. Oh yeah, Charlotte traded. Yeah, Charlotte traded Durant to New York, who traded Durant to the Pistons.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But so I don't think there's any way we'd be willing to wait because, like, I mean, that's just like you talked about at the beginning of the show. That's just too many things have to happen, and I just don't understand.
I mean,
why.
It doesn't change anything for us if we wait, right? It's we get Jeremy Grant or we get Jeremy Grant. Maybe we take back another contract, but if we're over the salary and we're just looking at using the taxpayer mid-level exception, then an extra $9 million of salary into it with Bledsoe going out, what does that change?
If New York strikes out on Brunson and now it looks like Kyrie's out the table, all that kind of stuff, what if they back out of the Kemba part of it and Detroit gets screwed with Durant? I would think if Detroit has that deal on the table, they're not waiting, in my opinion. I think they're just like, we don't want anyone to get cold feet here.
I mean, teams aren't, like, that would be that would be literally the number one thing that you don't do as a GM is just agree to a trade and then, like, have other teams wait and then decide not to do the trade based on what happens. Like,
you said you would do that if you were a GM last year.
No, I said that if you, like, said, oh yeah, if we do this trade, I'll draft this guy, and then you draft somebody else. I mean, I guess that's the same thing, but it's still, like, this is worse because you're coming to an agreement on a trade and then going back on the trade agreement, whereas that would be like saying, oh, I'll draft this guy, and then you draft somebody else.
But why? I just don't understand why Detroit or us would be waiting and why we would need to wait for them to figure out a second part of the trade that has no bearing on our part.
I don't know. It could just be like some sort of incentive for us. I would think, like, if we can get rid of Bledsoe and get Nerlens Noel, like.
I mean, the other part of it is that Jeremy Grant is in Paris this week for a fashion show, so maybe he just hasn't gotten his physical yet because he's the only player in our part of the trade. That might be a simple explanation, but that's not as fun to talk about.
Like, I wish we could throw Bledsoe in and Winslow and bring back Olynyk and save our TPE.
But like I said, the report was that Detroit was going to use half of their TPE they just got from Grant to take on Kemba. So I don't think it makes sense. If
Well, Grant and Olynyk would match Bledsoe, Winslow, and Kemba easily, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna assume it's nothing, but
Yeah, as JD mentions, Pistons have literally backed out of a trade twice. Luckily, they're not the ones doing the physical in this. That'd be hilarious, though, if they declined to trade because of Kemba's physical or something, even though they were buying him out.
Yeah. I mean,
they made a great move to get Durant. We're using that pick and cap space. I don't know why they wouldn't want to have that finalized immediately and make it so, like, yeah.
I mean, don't you call in trades before you have the physicals?
Yeah, so
it could already be called into the league office,
right? Which goes back to my point is if you called it in but are waiting on something, then you wouldn't be able to change the terms of the trade. Yeah. But you would be able to wait till the new league year to sign an extension for Jeremy Grant.
Yeah.
And that's why it comes back to me. I don't think Jeremy Grant would sign a 2-year, $45 million extension. But everything I'm hearing and the logic of it either means that they just simply haven't gotten around to doing a physical on Jeremy Grant, which I don't know why they wouldn't go to Paris or have him come back early or something. Or he's really going to sign a 2-year, $45 million extension, and we just can't announce that until July 1st or whatever day the new league year officially starts.
Yeah. I don't know. What else? I mean, just my head spin a little bit.
Yeah, so...
Like, I saw a comment earlier said that we need to be... Or something about Naz Reid. I mean, Naz Reid would be a really good pickup because he can shoot the three and, like, protect the rim a bit and be, like, I think he would be okay as a backup center, agile athlete. And then I think you could play Watford next to him as the backup forward, you know, because Naz Reid can shoot and he's cheap and fits into our smallest $3.2 million TP from Nickeil Alexander-Walker. And Minnesota just drafted Walker Kessler. Mm-hmm. So, like, who knows what their plan is. Like, I know they want to play Cat more at the 4. Shout out to that Timberwolves fan that, like, came in chat or maybe it was on Twitter that was saying, like, yeah, they want to play Cat more at the 4. He was right, apparently.
Yeah.
But, you know, they have Cat and they just drafted Walker Kessler. I mean, Naz Reid could be gettable for maybe a Keon Johnson straight up. Or, you know, a second or two. And Naz Reid is still... let me look. 22 years old. So, like, an acquisition like that would have me feeling better going into free agency. Just getting a backup on the cheap like that fits.
I think that's why they're not necessarily committing to that, because I think there's going to be a lot of options in free agency as teams... There's several teams that have roster spot issues. There's several teams that are going to be in a similar situation where if they want to free up the full MLE, they're going to have to maybe dump a player like a Naz Reid to get just a little extra salary or something. So I think there's going to be options like that once free agency starts on Thursday, and I think Portland is in a prime position because basically anyone, I forgot how much exactly the Rocco TPE is. It's $6.5 million. So anyone making under $6.62 million basically is someone that we could take on without having to give up any sort of salary back. And I know lots of teams have TPEs that small, but Portland seems to be willing to take on a lot of these players. So I think
Rudy Gay, Kem Birch.
Yeah. I think we're going to be in a position where we can help a team out, maybe pick up some assets. Maybe we use those assets to attach to Eric Bledsoe in a different trade or something. Or maybe we just use those extra second rounders to get Thibault then too on top of someone else like a Kem Birch. We get a couple seconds for taking on his contract or something like that. Yeah, so I think there's going to be options. And I think it pretty much, in my opinion, if you go, they got Sharp right, they went the young route there. I think most of the other positions are going to go for more established players. And if you combine that with it being kind of tough for them to work out a full mid-level exception, I think you can pretty clearly take out players like Mo Bamba and Jalen Smith as targets. As fun as either of those players would be for the Blazers, I just don't think those types are going to be the ones they target in free agency. Just a little bit too young and unproven, and a little bit too difficult to get if we don't have the full mid-level exception.
Here's somebody we have to talk about that we haven't talked about in a while, and some people won't even want to consider it, but for a minimum contract could be an option for the backup center spot, and that is one LaMarcus Aldridge. For a minimum contract, he could be gettable on a minimum contract. You know, I don't know if he wants to finish his career in Portland, but last season, he only played 47 games, but last season in 22 minutes a game, still averaged 13 points per game. Per 36 last season, Eric, he averaged 21 points per game. That's 58% from two. His three-point shooting took a dip down to 30%, but the previous 2 years it had been right around 39%. Mm-hmm. So true shooting percentage is 60%. In his rim protection last year, according to Basketball Index, graded out really positively. So, I mean, on a minimum contract, if you still need to fill the backup center spots,
I think Dame would rather have DeMarcus than LaMarcus.
Get them both. I mean, I don't know. Like,
yeah. I mean, I see why they would do that. I see why. It's just, yeah. If Aldridge is willing to be like a backup that barely plays and accepted his role, I think he did that on Brooklyn, but I don't know how much he would do that.
Define barely plays, like 20 minutes a game?
Well, I mean, I don't even like him playing that much. I'd almost rather play Watford those minutes. Yeah.
I mean, the dude was still good last season.
I mean, he was okay.
This dude was still... He averaged 13 points per game in 22 minutes, efficiently. Yeah. And his rim protection graded out positively, very positively. Like, I don't see how that's not really good for a backup center.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm fine with it. I get why. I mean, rim protection's not the only thing we need out of a center. I
know, but if you're talking about, like, something you could get on a minimum contract for the backup center spot.
I would much rather go for a younger player that is a quick jumper that isn't kind of a lumbering big at this point. I would. Yeah,
absolutely. You're probably not getting that for a minimum, though.
But that's why I said barely plays. Like, I was hoping that he would be like a third string backup. I just don't see, like, getting a better option on a minimum contract. And if I'm saying, like, in case, like, we don't have maybe the MLE we spend on a backup for, and then we have no other options, no other money to sign a backup center, and we're stuck, and we only have a minimum contract. I mean, that's probably your best centers you can find. I'd almost
for a minimum, like who?
I'd rather have Mountain Dew Banks.
No way. Nope. Disagree. Nope. I would not rather have Drew Eubanks than LaMarcus Aldridge. No. Third string, fine, but LaMarcus was good last year, man. Like, that's the thing. He's gonna be 37 next year, so yeah, like, he could take a step back, but he's skilled. You know, I don't know, man. He could still knock down that mid-range shot, still finishes well, still has that 9'5" standing reach, which is 8 inches taller than Trendon Watford's. I mean, yeah, he's not quick or anything, but the dude's still skilled and talented and can protect the rim and can knock down shots and score.
Yeah. I just think on our particular team with our defensive issues of the past, I don't know if he's the best fit, but
I mean, he's a better defender than Eubanks is, though.
Dude, okay. I mean, Eubanks is quicker on the perimeter than he is.
I'd still take Aldridge's defense. I'd still take the better rim protector first, and then I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of hard to judge Eubanks' rim protection off of our tanking games.
Yeah, but he wasn't known as a defender in San Antonio.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Like, I know that's your guy, Oregon State alum. But...
Dude, I've never thought that because he went to Oregon State. I wasn't even thinking that he went to Oregon State.
I know, but that's how people be with me, So, just pivot it to you.
Give Gary Payton a second of max this summer.
Like, if it's a minimum contract, I'm okay with that for Aldridge.
Yeah.
And I have been the one who says Aldridge isn't coming back. You guys shouldn't want him to be a starting for. You guys shouldn't want him. Maybe a couple years down the line, like as a backup center on a cheap contract, sure. I feel like we're here, Like, it's not my number one target at all. But for a minimum contract, you could do a lot worse. Like, I would rather have him than Ennis Freedom. I'd rather have him than a few other guys. I don't know backup centers off the top of my head, but so.
That's a good one. I wouldn't mind JaVale McGee.
I feel like he gets more than the...
Yeah, more than the minimum. Yeah, if we're talking minimum players. But...
Yeah, so that's the thing. So, minimum target. If you guys have a better backup center minimum target, let me know.
I'm not comparing careers. Obviously, LaMarcus... Drew Eubanks can't hold LaMarcus's jockstrap in terms of career accomplishments and what they were in their prime. That has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
So there's a Myers Leonard backup for a minimum. Yeah, I mean Mo Wagner. Yeah, you could do bad. Like, I would love to go out and get Isaiah Hartenstein. That's like my dream backup center. But
if the Blazers get Isaiah Hartenstein, I think they won the offseason, and no one will think that because of that signing. But that's
perfect.
That is as good as we can get in terms of, like I was saying earlier, guy who competes, studies the game. He basically taught himself how to play defense last offseason and just dramatically improved. And that guys like that who can move a little bit, he can pass, he can handle the ball a little bit, he can shoot a little bit, he can he improved his rim protection, like I said, greatly last year. Towards the end of the season, he got some of his foul trouble taken care of. And Chauncey being, good friends with Ty Lue, that's a guy who he would, I'm sure, knows all about and would love to have as well.
Yeah, I have his stats right here in case anybody's interested. He played 18 minutes a game last year for the Clippers, averaged over 8 points per game, shooting 64% from 2 and 47% from 3. He was, 14 for 30 from 3. True shooting percentage on the season, 66%. Also averaged 2.5 assists. That's in 18 minutes a game. So per 36, he averaged almost 5 assists.
Mm-hmm.
And Basketball Index graded him as one of the best rim protectors in the league, like a grade A rim protector, and he has the foot speed to guard a little bit out on the perimeter.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's 24 years old.
Yep.
The thing is he didn't play much last year. That's why he might be gettable for MLE. Well, I feel like the taxpayer isn't enough, but he would be perfect. He's my dream backup center target.
Here's what happened today. The rumor is that the Clippers are going to give John Wall the tax mid-level exception. And they have no bird rights on Isaiah Hartenstein. So the thought was that if they were going to keep him, they were going to have to offer him the tax mid-level exception. So if you see that John Wall actually does sign for the tax mid-level and not just a minimum or whatever, look out, because that probably means they're losing Hartenstein. And like I said, in that case, I don't think Lou would be like, no, don't sign him, please don't. He would be like, Billups, man, I know we can't sign him anymore, but you need to get this guy. And I think Billups knows that already. And I think, I mean, I haven't heard them link to him at all, other than like, you know, in the past, like we thought about signing him over Harry Giles one off season or whatever. But that's the kind of guy that could completely change our outlook for this next season. And I know that sounds silly, but you know, like if Nurk goes down, we have a fully capable backup. And then when Nurk's not on the floor, we have someone that might actually be a little quicker and a little better at some of the.
Say better in general.
A little does some of the things that we need Nurk to be a little better at, better than he does. And I just think that would be such an advantage, and I think it would allow us to have a backup rim protector that's that good. And I think if our perimeter defense improves just a little bit, Nurk will go back to being a positive rim protector as well, I think, in that situation, especially if he's being pushed by someone like Hartenstein. And then also, I think that allows us to play a little smaller at the 1 through 3, even if you don't think that Hart or Sharp can play the 3. I think that lets us play there a little more, especially with our second unit. And I just think that would be so good for our team, but It's really hard, yeah.
Yep. I want Hartenstein more than, like, Bamba.
All right.
I want Hartenstein more than any possible target. Like, that's my dream center. I want to know what you're, like, if that happened, who would be your idealistic, like, realistic backup power forward acquisition to get?
If we got Hartenstein?
Yeah, for the MLE.
Unlike you, I think we're okay at the forward spot.
With the backup 4? Why? Because Watford?
Yeah, I like Watford.
Or because of Justice Winslow?
Well, so it's not because of Justice Winslow, but what I think is having Winslow allows us to hope that Watford isn't like doesn't regress or doesn't have any sophomore slump or anything like that, or maybe a little bit was just getting playing time on a bad team, which I don't believe that. So that's why I think having Winslow there pushes Watford to have to be better to get that spot over him. But I also think that Watford, if he improves, could easily beat out Winslow and earn that playing time too. So I don't think it's that bad. And then as Alex Wolf points out, you re-sign Ingles, and that's not necessarily going to help us at all the first few months of the season, but maybe eventually he comes back and then factors into that as well if Watford isn't completely killing it at that end. So yeah, I'm fine with doing that, especially if we get Hartenstein, but yeah.
I'd be okay with Watford, and then like if Watford's just not good enough, trying Ingles once he gets back, and then like deadline time, maybe you trade for something else, or then buyout market, like you have chances to address that. I'm just worried, Eric, that like Justice Winslow's going to play like 18 minutes a game next year as the backup 4. I know people like him, and I like him too, and I'm fine with him as like the 11th man on the team. But, guys, he's just not good enough to settle for him being a part of the rotation if we're serious about, like, actually trying to be competitive this year. He could barely play for a Clippers team that was banged up, and there was a reason for that. I know he plays good defense, but the dude still cannot make shots. Like, and that's the thing. When you get certain guys, especially after a rough season, and you get a guy like Winslow, and he's competitive defensively and will, like, make the right pass, there's a honeymoon phase with that. And there absolutely was. And the team looked, competitive when, with him in the lineup. But the dude, even in Portland, with how good people thought he played, he still barely shot 40% from the field, only shot 27% from 3. He cannot make shots or playoff guys. And that's the thing. Like, good teams will leave him open. Good teams will load off of him onto better players and make things harder for other guys on the floor. And I don't want to settle for that. I would rather play Watford over Winslow at the backup 4. It's just, I hope Watford can knock down threes. Like, if Watford can knock down threes, then that's easily sold on Watford being the backup 4. But if it can't, then it's like, what center do you get to potentially space the floor?
And Hartenstein shot well in limited volume last year, so I'd hope that he could be that guy.
If you play him in lineups with like Dame, Ant, Sharp, though, like maybe his lack of shooting is fine. Especially if we got Hartenstein in there as the 5, and that line, I don't know. I think we have.
I mean, he doesn't finish well. He just doesn't make shots well for any area of the floor, man. Those are liabilities.
Yeah, I mean, shooting obviously is not good, but I think I don't know. I think he I don't know. I think he embodies what Chauncey wants, and that's gonna let him get some playing time, and hopefully that his shooting isn't a negative. Maybe he just doesn't shoot very much, but yeah.
I don't know if I can't remember the last time I was wrong where I was like, I really don't want this guy as part of our rotation going into the season, and like that player was a part of the rotation and then panned out. Like, I was saying I don't want Stauskas in the rotation. I don't want Mario Hazodia in the rotation. I don't want Anthony Tolliver in the rotation. Like, every time there's a guy like this, and I like Winslow more than those other 3, but it's like every time there's a guy like this, I don't know. I feel like they end up being a part of the rotation, and the honeymoon phase is gone, and I feel like if Winslow's a part of the rotation next year, fans will just get extremely frustrated over his lack of ability to make a shot. I mean, fans got frustrated with Rocco in the shots that he missed. He is a much better shooter than Justice Winslow.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, he might be a better finisher around the rim than Justice Winslow. I don't know the stats, but, like... So, I don't know. I just feel like fans would get frustrated. Like, I'm fine with him being an insurance policy, but not somebody that you just settle on being the backup power forward. And that's exactly what I'm worried about, Eric, is that they're gonna settle for him being the backup power forward.
Like I said, they still have Watford, and I know they're high on him as well. So I think some competition would be fine.
Yeah. Yep. So that's not much competition though. Like, I don't know. It's Watford. Watford. I'm okay with.
I mean, I think you're ignoring just how big of an impact he could have defensively on a team that really needs defenders.
He's good defensively. He's not like some phenomenal defender, in my opinion.
I mean, he's pretty good on that end, and him and Nurk were forming a good bond, but only played a few games together. Yeah.
I don't want to read too much into.
No, I'm not reading. I'm not reading too much into it.
I know.
I'm just saying. Like, I felt like he was. I mean, even his mental, like what he was saying, it was different than any other point in his career. He like was talking about how he found a home and he felt comfortable here, all that kind of stuff. But yeah.
And he still shot below his career averages from 3 and like barely above his career average from 2.
We know he can't shoot. I don't know why you keep bringing up shooting. He brings a lot of stuff to the table.
It's a major problem. I know, but it's a major problem, man. Major problem.
Definitive one. Kenny Lofton Jr. signed with another team, so yeah.
Like, I feel like you can go find a good defensive player that's at least able to knock down some shots. I mean, I don't know. That player could be Watford. I know Watford isn't as good of a perimeter defender, but like, I think he's a smart defensive player.
I know, but that's why you have competition between those two, and hopefully Watford finishes. Watford beats them out.
I just feel like they're going to overrate Winslow. I don't know, man.
I mean, they
I don't
are
want Winslow in the rotation. Yeah, they are. They talk about him in the same vein as they were like Josh Hart at times in press conferences. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, I mean. I know you're not going to agree, but Definitive One and now Taylor Packer both mentioned this. I think Jabari Walker will be ready to play relatively soon. He might challenge for some playing time right away as well.
We haven't talked about Jabari. Yeah, we haven't talked about Jabari, and I'm about to drop a video on him. But Jabari is a solid shooter. He was really good his freshman year on limited sample, and then last year shot a little under 35%. But he struggled to start the season. I was reading something that talked about how he was like, there was a lot of pressure on him to like step up and be the star in his second season because McKinley Wright, the 4th, left.
Yeah, they had no talent on that team, really.
And then like once he kind of settled in, he shot a lot better. So like I think he will be a good shooter. But he's a 3-and-D guy. Every other area of his game, Eric, I'm not confident in anytime soon.
Why do we need him to be more than a 3-and-D guy now, though?
I mean, that's true.
But like if guys can just sprint at him and run him off the 3-point line, like he doesn't show like a 1 or 2 dribble mid range pull up, like I don't have confidence in him off the dribble. I don't know. I feel like teams would just run him off the line.
I feel like watching him in the combine, and Anisha Curry got a good look because she was his coach for that. He was showing that kind of ability. He was handling the ball, setting up offense, making plays off the dribble, and so I have hope that maybe he can display some of that.
We're talking about how many games at the combine?
It doesn't matter. I'm just saying I saw him physically do it I watched him do it. Like maybe that just was a case of he was the amount of attention he got on defense at Colorado this year.
I mean, maybe. Just, I wasn't really looking too much in the combine. I was looking more at his time in Colorado. But, like, maybe he can. I hope he can. Shoot, that solves a potential problem. Because he didn't show it much during his time playing for Colorado, I'm not confident in any area of his game other than him being able to play some defense and shoot threes, which is fine. Like, that's kind of what we need.
That would be perfect. If he was like a 40% 3-point shooter and played good defense, I think that'd be
don't count on him being 40% 3-point shooter.
Okay.
I think that's a little high. But I wouldn't rule it out. I just don't want to get too overconfident with Jabari Walker.
Mm-hmm.
So if he could be a 40% 3-point shooter, I will be ecstatic, and that should be our backup power forward. Absolutely. I would play. I feel like Watford's gonna earn it over Winslow or Walker, though.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully.
I mean, Watford just has to hit threes, is what it is.
Yeah, for the record, he shot over 46% in the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take his whole year into account. Like, I don't know. He's shown that he can shoot the light side of the ball, but you're talking about a guy going to the NBA. I mean, most guys, like, I don't know. He ain't Caleb Swanigan from 3 or anything, but, rest in peace to Swanigan. But Swanigan was like a 42% shooter in college, came to the NBA, couldn't shoot anything close to that. I don't think he's that, but most guys, it's a longer 3-point line. So 40%, I feel like is quite the bar.
Well, I mean, he shot 52.3 his freshman year.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like that's quite a high bar, 40% in the league.
I'm just saying, like, if he does that, like, he's automatically probably our best option at the 4 right away.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like he'll be 36-37%er off the bat. I think he could potentially get to 40%. But yeah, like, I don't know. That's the thing though, is what I said going into this offseason is I would just want established players or like a very high-end prospect at every position in the rotation. So like I'm cool with Sharp playing some minutes and just with his talent and everything. But like backup 4 and 5, and this kind of goes back to the crux of this conversation, is you only have one legitimate asset to really address both those positions. So I'm curious to see if they're only looking to address one of those positions or what the plan is if they're trying to address both.
I mean, this goes back to Kenyon Martin Jr., Matisse Thybulle. Everything I'm hearing is that they're trying to not address a position that's not one of those 2 needs you keep talking about. So that would
is just dumb.
That would lead me to believe that it's more of the case that you're talking about, where they're comfortable with Watford and Winslow, and maybe Walker, maybe even Greg Brown. I don't know. But yeah, it's just how it's seemingly from their end when they're tied to players like Thybulle and Kenyon Martin Jr.
Which those guys are fine if they're on, like, if you're barely giving anything up. But
I mean, just play Sharp 15 minutes a game. Or bring in somebody in free agency on a minimum that could maybe play 15 minutes a game if Sharp's not ready. Like, we haven't been afraid to do that in the past, Tony Snell. But if that's really, where they're we need to get a backup 3, because that's what Kenyon Martin Jr. is. His standing reach, FYI, for anybody who doesn't know Kenyon Martin Jr., standing reach is 8'6". It's an inch and a half shorter than Shaden Sharp's. He's more undersized for the 3 than Shaden Sharp is. Mm-hmm. And skill-wise is not Shaden Sharp. So, but if that's where...
I disagree, Tori. His eye level is higher than Shaden Sharp, so you're wrong.
His eyes are closer to the ceiling and further away from the floor. He's a better player. Oh, man. Those guys are fine in the Justice Winslow 11th, 12th man insurance guy in situational basketball. You can put him in for a defensive possession, that sort of thing. End of the game, you don't have to play Dame Ant, Stotts would always do with Dame and CJ, and wouldn't bring Derek Jones Jr. into the game for a final defensive stand, that sort of thing. You could play some situational basketball and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't mind either of those guys if they came cheap. But if the front office is sitting here we need to bring in these guys to play the backup 3, I mean, I'm kind of confused how they're so high on Shaden Sharp, but then also not high enough to be prioritizing very mediocre players over him for next year. If it was a guy that was truly established, okay, fine. But we're talking about Kenyon Martin Jr. and Matisse Thybulle.
Well, like I said, I think they're just going after guys who have a reputation of being defensive competitors, and I think they're just trying to get as much depth as possible on that end.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it just depends on what they envision for him. Mm-hmm. If it's for depth and situational basketball, and they barely give anything up, fine. If it's they're targeting them to be their rotational backup 3 night in, night out over Shaden Sharp and are willing to give up more than what they should be, then I don't like it. Anyway, XC Dep, Royce O'Neal's on Utah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, did he get traded?
Yeah, did we miss something? Matisse would not... Matisse would not start here. Please, no. I'm a little worried that maybe they'd want Matisse to start. Anyway, anything else?
Yeah, I was trying to see if I missed a trade or something, but I don't see anything.
Huh. Anything else that we need to talk about for tonight? We touched on a lot.
I think that's pretty much everything.
Yeah, might have a free agency preview on Wednesday. I'm not sure. I'll keep you guys posted on Twitter. I'm going to have a Jabari Walker video after this. And then, a video tomorrow, too.
You mentioned Michael Green, not Royce O'Neal.
Royce on the Jazz, thinking JaMychal Green. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want JaMychal Green. What do you think?
I mean, if we got him for a minimum to put depth at the 4 and pressure Watford, but there's another guy that I'd rather just play Watford over.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, here's the thing. That's with Summer League. Summer League is actually going to help us determine what our rotation could be. Because if you bring in, some guys, like a backup 4 to compete with Watford, if Watford goes into Summer League and it's just lights out from 3 and his form looks a little bit better, then we're going to have a better feeling for if Watford can win that backup 4 job. Mm-hmm. If he's knocking down threes, I mean, every other area of his game I like, right?
Oh, by the way, Watford posted a picture. He looks a lot slimmer, too. Like he's lost some weight. Even
more? Because I know he lost some weight last year.
Yeah, he posted one. He looked actually almost like a different person. He was... Because, I mean, he's one of those guys who probably looks bigger than he is all the time. Yeah. But, yeah, I think he lost some weight.
Where did he post that? Twitter?
I don't remember where it was, Instagram or Twitter or whatever, but it was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think I saw it. I mean, if
it
he's
could have just been
up,
a camera angle or something like that.
Yeah.
Zion
like,
was.
If he's slimming up, that makes it more a 4 than a 5, and lengthwise he's more a 4 than a 5. So that just comes down to, can he knock down shots? Because if he's slimmer, I think he'll be able to do even more off the dribble.
I will say this: I think if Watford dominates Game 1 of Summer League, he's not playing the rest of the. I think they'll just.
Didn't somebody do that recently?
Like
in the past few
years.
years?
I think lots of people do that. There was that one year where Dame, he was like in his 5th year or something. He said he was going to play Summer League, and he went to all the practices and then flew with the team to Vegas and then didn't play or something. Everyone was like, "Why would Dame play?"
Yeah, that's funny.
That'd be awesome if he played this year.
Just like
he just wants to play in a competitive game since he was out.
Yeah, so. Yeah. And the first quarter has like 35 points, and then. He's done. He announces he's back and he's done. He walks out of the gym. I'd be down for that, but I'm looking forward to Summer League, man. We're gonna get some answers, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Joe Cronin ends up figuring out with this offseason, the rest of this offseason. Because I mean, if you listen to his quotes where he says we need to get better, then maybe he has some big plans, but it's gonna be hard to pull off something big with the assets the Blazers have left. Mm-hmm. But we'll have you covered, and we'll have a day one free agency stream. Are you expecting things to us to have a clearer picture after day one, or do you feel like it's going to be a quiet day for Blazers?
I expect, much like Hood a couple years ago, I am going to start to be worried if we do not sign Anthony Nurk almost immediately.
Yeah.
Because I think, logic dictates this too, but from everything I've heard is that they have already agreed basically on terms, and they're just waiting for the actual date. So I think they're going to be signing them very quickly. You could make the argument that maybe they'd wait on Ant because, he's got a lower cap hold, probably about half of what he's going to sign for. So
yeah, and you can let other teams set the market, and you can match. They
don't have any cap space, so it's not going to really work. And if you're hearing them linked to like Ayton or Miles Bridges or any of those type of players still, we could, I guess, get our picks unprotected and offer a bunch of picks for them, and include Harden, Bledsoe and stuff, but I just don't see that as being realistic, and I just think all of that was smoke screens because they were using Portland to have cap space, which Portland officially does not have anymore now that they re-signed or picked up the guarantee on Josh Hart's contract. They officially do not have any cap space.
$60 million of cap space.
I know everyone in the chat already knows that, but they don't have cap space, so they're not going to make a run at any of those guys. Maybe they work out a sign and trade, but like I talked about before, sign and trade hard caps you just like signing someone to the full mid-level exception. So if we have a hard time staying under the hard cap, signing someone to 10 million, how are we going to sign and trade for someone that's making 30 million? And stay under that 155 million number. So I think all those are just pipe dreams at this point. Now, if it's someone under contract already, I'm just going to, not that I think we're going to trade for this guy, but let's just say we're trading for Tobias Harris, right? Ew, right? But we could match salary and we wouldn't get hard capped, and so it would be fine, and we could go as deep as into the tax as we needed to. But if we sign a trade for Miles Bridges or whatever, that's a different story. I think you're muted.
You are right. You catch it so fast now. Hyper Prime, the stream starts at 2 p.m. on Thursday, Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, an hour before free agency, so we can kind of round up some of the rumors as we head into free agency, and I'll have a countdown on screen. So gonna
try and have the graphics ready the night before. I've never done that for a big stream. I'm always like scrambling the night of to finish things up. I just like go back and forth on what sort of template I want to do for the graphics until it's like almost too late. So we'll have a graphics package for you guys as always, and we'll answer more questions. If I have the graphics done by Wednesday night, might do a free agency stream and have those graphics on that stream, and just kind of show you guys what we'll have the following night. So, and just kind of go over some things and some new rumors and stuff. But follow us on Twitter, because we will tweet about anything new. If anything like breaks, if we have a major trade or something, we'll of course stream on the main channel. If I might do another video on a rumor or whatnot. So just stay tuned and follow us on Twitter. Follow our channel page at BlazersUpriseYT. We tweet out everything that we post or drop. And then you can join our Discord, link in the description box below. And we tag everybody in our Discord when we drop anything, so that's ways you can know what's up with the channel. Anyway, any final words?
I've been seeing this a lot lately. Just want to address it real quick. Definitive One says Nurk's played 16 out of 35 playoff games, and we're 3-13 in those. It's a little disingenuous. Obviously, we got swept by the Pelicans. That you can put some blame on him there. So that's 4 of those 13 losses. One of those 13 losses is Nurk playing on one leg, in which we almost beat the Kevin Durant led champion 2017 Warriors. And Nurk was absolutely dominant in that game, even without even scoring at all. He completely had it, and then he couldn't walk anymore in the second half. And the minute he goes out of the game, the Warriors go on a huge run. And then, I mean, in the bubble, we're the 8 seed playing the Lakers. And then Dame gets hurt in that series. In the next year, we should have beat Denver. Obviously, that's a really tough matchup for Nurk. So that's obviously another. That in the Pelican series, I guess you could say that. But the rest of them, I don't really put any stock in. Like, I don't know.
The Pelican series was other things. It was us running Dame into traps all game long.
I will say, Game 4, in the second half, we finally started posting up Nurk, and he abused Anthony Davis. He abused what was that other guy's name? The European big shooter guy.
Nikola Mirotic?
Yeah, Mirotic, yeah. He abused him. They had to start double teaming him in the post, and he was still scoring and got Anthony Davis in foul trouble. And then we just went away from it late in the fourth quarter. Not that we would have won the series anyway; it didn't matter at that point. But once we started using him, he started dominating. And then so I don't know. He hasn't had a chance to show his skills under a different coach in the playoffs either. So I don't know.
Yep, exactly. So I'm fine with Nurkic coming back. You're not going to get anything better. Portland. I mean, we've been talking about how Portland doesn't really have assets, and I don't see how you're going to turn Nurkic into something better. I mean, if Nurkic was playing in Phoenix instead of Ayton, he would look pretty good next to Chris Paul. Chris Paul makes all his big men look good, and he would have a positive playoff record, and then maybe he would be the one where people are saying he could get a max. You know what I mean? It's so much of it is situational and stuff. So, yes, he missed some time. You're saying he missed 19 of 35 games, but if Portland got swept in 2019, then he wouldn't have missed as many games.
Yeah,
that's because Portland went on a run when the 1 year he had a serious injury.
That's 16 of the 19 games, man. Is one off season. So I think that's just being a little disingenuous.
Yep. So anyway, that wraps up this stream. Hopefully you guys have anything else, sir?
Yeah, just to wrap that up, if we let Nurk walk for nothing, even if we waited to re-sign Ant, we'd still have the mid-level exception amount of money at the most to sign a backup center, or a starting center. So if you think that we could get a starting center for the mid-level exception that's better than Nurk, and possibly having that same center as our backup center instead, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But that's just we can't get a better center than Nurk right now.
Yep. So anyway, it sounds like Nurkic is coming back. It sounds like Ant's coming back. That was a report today. So, and the questions are with the backup 4 and 5 spots. I think it looks like Nas is going to be the starting 3 next year. Or maybe it's Hart, or maybe, I don't know. Who knows what they want to do with the lineup, but you have some pieces. It's just going to be interesting to see how it all fits, and we should have some more clarity on Thursday, hopefully.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate your guys' support, and hope to catch you for that free agency stream.
Yep. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Leave a like on the stream. And I'm out of here. We'll catch you in the next stream on Wednesday night or the